All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you are new. Thank you guys so much for being here with me today and coming by the stream. We have some really interesting stuff to go over and talk about today in regards to PlayStation. Seems that Sony is getting ready to announce something. How significant this is going to be, it's anybody's guess, but it seems like they are getting ready to announce something. I see somebody in the chat saying, really hoping your source is credible. I do have my own source. However, that's actually not what I'm leading with. That's not what I'm going with, because to me, it's a situation where, regardless of what my own source says, I'm just kind of putting that in the back burner. There seems to be movement happening. There seems to be movement regarding PlayStation, regarding Sony. And what I want to do is actually talk about what this could be. And I'm going to let you know right off the bat, everybody, I think, needs to temper their expectations. I'm seeing, as always, some crazy stuff being talked about. And it's kind of understandable. It's kind of understandable why you might see some of this stuff floating around. But that's not the only thing we're going to be talking about today. We're also going to be talking about Spider-Man 2 a little bit. There seems to be some building anticipation. I mean, obviously, people have been anticipating Spider-Man for a while now, but I just figured we could acknowledge this a little bit. But on top of that, we actually have something that was discovered. This is not a rumor. This is not anything revolving around insiders. This is actually legitimately something that is confirmed, and we're going to talk about it, and it definitely points towards Sony doing something possibly as soon as next week. So before we dive into these topics today, really quickly, we have Omen86 starting off the day, gifting 5 memberships. I did notice that there are some people still expressing a little bit of frustration with the membership trains. Sometimes the membership trains happen at the beginning of a stream, and it can be, 10 or 15 minutes of that going on. I'll try my best to keep them as contained as I possibly can. But, as I say, people who choose to gift memberships, who choose to become members, or who choose to donate super chats. These are people who are supporting my content and my channel directly. And without that direct support, I simply wouldn't be able to produce the content. I know for some people it's kind of hard to deal with, but there are also plenty of people here who do enjoy the memberships. And I will let you guys know, actually, Omen just gifted 5 memberships. For anybody who does get gifted a membership today, or if you choose to become a member, I did just put out an exclusive video for members yesterday, an unboxing video, something very different from my normal content. And you guys seem to have really enjoyed that. So I'm still contemplating if I'm going to put that out publicly or not. If I do, it's not going to be right now, but if you do become a channel member, or if you give channel memberships like Hellbound1981 gives 5 memberships of his own, bringing us up to 10 memberships gifted on the day already. Thank you so much for that, Hellbound. I got 2 legends here starting off the stream strong. But if you do become a channel member, or if you're gifted a membership, you get access to all of this exclusive content that I've created. I try to put out exclusive members only content every Saturday. You also get access to exclusive emojis that you can use in the live chat or in the comment section. So yeah, to everybody who chooses to support me in that way, thank you so much. And, for those who super chat, you know how it is. You guys can keep the conversation flowing in different directions. And I'll certainly be interested and curious to see what you guys may have to say about today's topics. And the last thing I want to say is just, first off, a simple thank you for watching my content. But we have almost 400 people here already, which is incredible to see. Take a second out of your, I was going to say out of your time, but out of your day here to just hit that like button. As I tell you guys, hitting that like button helps tremendously with YouTube's algorithm and kind of exposing the stream and the channel to new people here. so we can continue to grow this awesome community that loves gaming, that enjoys PlayStation. So hit that like button for me. And we have BGUK as well as Kevin G, both re-upping their memberships. Huge shout out to you guys for choosing to do that. Thank you so much for the continued support. I hope you guys look forward to some of the exclusive content that you've just gained access to. And one last reminder here, actually. If you have that membership badge next to your name, two things. I just want to encourage people to double check to see if you have that membership badge next to your name, because if you see that, that means you are a member. Some people do miss the fact that they are gifted memberships. You gain access to all that exclusive content, and you also have the ability to gift memberships yourself. So keep that in mind. The only requirement to gifting memberships is to be a member yourself. So just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. And Zombie Dragon follows it up with a membership gift of his own, bringing us up to 13 on the day. Shout out to you, Zombie Dragon. Let me give you guys a couple of sound bites here, show my appreciation. And I have a couple of member chats here. We have Mini Tom Official. He says, hey, thanks for the gifted member, Omen. I can't wait to see if there will be a live PlayStation event, maybe a state of play or a showcase. Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. Before I give my thoughts on whether Sony's actually going to announce something next week and whether or not it's going to be a state of play or showcase, I want to talk about where we're getting this information. I want to talk about why so many people are expecting something from Sony next week. And we have The Furious saying, with the divisive reviews of Starfield as the wind taken out of Xbox's sales, they had so much momentum leading up to launch. It's a great question. You know, it's really weird. And see, I had no plans, to talk about Starfield during the stream. But, since you're bringing it up here, I will say there was something that I came across, a couple of things that I came across actually regarding Starfield that I thought were kind of interesting. The first is that I noticed this past week there were multiple opinion pieces created, likely for clicks, if I had to guess, but opinion pieces regarding Starfield essentially saying the same thing, which is, understandably going to frustrate the Xbox and Starfield community, basically just talking about how Starfield is a little bit underwhelming, or at the very least, not everything that, it was promised to be or that it was supposed to be. And I thought, okay, well, that's whatever. These are outlets that are, again, they're looking to get some clicks, they're looking to get some views, and they know an easy way to do that this week is to go against the grain. However, I just saw today a really interesting tweet from a very well-known and I think well-respected, I'm assuming he's well-respected, I've come across some of his reviews, influencer and reviewer, and his name, at least his name on Twitter and on YouTube is Nakey Jakey. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with him, but he's pretty popular, I'd say. And he put out this tweet, and I just thought that this was kind of crazy because he has a lot of influence. He says, I just needed to rant about Starfield for a sec because I'm losing my mind. 25 hours in, and exploration in Starfield is utterly dreadful. You land on a planet. It generates a bunch of locations. Most of them are like 400 meters away, if not more. And you walk. There's no ship to fly. There is no rover to drive. There's not even a space horse to mount to keep traversal engaging. You mindlessly sprint and boost jump through a soulless field of nothing to reach a copy and pasted destination that very rarely feels worth the effort. This is such a drastic step back from the amazing sense of exploration and wonder that Skyrim and Fallout 4 inspired that it truly baffles me. I want to like this game so bad. And, I'm not looking for this stuff. I'm just scrolling through Twitter and I see something like that and I'm like, wow. And you kind of understand why so many people are getting so defensive about Starfield, because something that's obvious to me, and I don't know if this is obvious to everybody else. And again, this isn't me trying to, crap on Starfield, because I've said many times I think it looks fine. I don't see any real problems with it. It seems like a good game, right? But what I'm noticing is that the game is simply more divisive than it was supposed to be. And I see people in my comments, like my last stream, somebody left a long, long comment, which I tried to read as much of it as I could, essentially explaining why this is okay and normal and the reviews are this is how it always is with Bethesda games. And it's like, I don't know why. I mean, I appreciate the comment, of course, but I don't know why anybody feels the need to explain this to me. Like, I'm not a Bethesda fan. I don't play Bethesda RPGs. I never thought Starfield looked good for me. Like, it never even once looked appealing. But it's just interesting to come across this type of stuff from really big influencers where I just fully anticipated that it would just simply be universal praise, right? Like, it would just simply be like, yeah, this game is awesome and it's everything that it was hyped up to be. But instead, it's kind of more down the middle. I'd say it's leaning more towards it's definitely a good game. But to get back to your question, The Furious, you're basically asking, like, has the wind been taken out of Xbox's sales? Not yet. That's going to happen when Sony steps in. And I don't say that in like a fanboy way. I'm just saying, like, realistically speaking, when Sony decides it's time to market and hype people up for Spider-Man and whatever else they may want to do, like, basically when Sony decides it's time to talk about the good news, it's time to engage with the community. Because I think people tend to forget, and it's understandable because Sony goes so long without talking sometimes that I think people forget just how good they are at getting people excited and kind of winning over the just not the internet, but just kind of, you know, kind of putting themselves at the center when they want to. I think that's going to happen when Sony decides it's time to talk. And I could be wrong. They could underwhelm and disappoint, but not to focus too much on the Metacritic scores and whatnot, right? Because I've had this conversation extensively with you guys. How review scores, they can be helpful, but you shouldn't let something like a Metacritic score determine whether or not you're going to want to play a game or support a game. But I will say this, Spider-Man 2 is coming out in 40 days. It's actually coming out in exactly 40 days from now. And, there were people hyping up Starfield like it was going to be a game of the generation. And while not everybody did this, but some people did, and I know you guys know this. I know you guys have seen this. Not everybody did this. So if you're somebody who didn't do this, what I'm saying is not even remotely applicable to you. Because I know that there are plenty of people here who just hyped up Starfield or excited for Starfield, excited for Xbox, but they're not also putting Sony down or PlayStation down, to put that up. So if you're not that person, I'm not speaking about you. But I know many of you guys have noticed that with the build up to Starfield, there was this kind of push from a certain group of people where it's not only is Starfield going to be the best game ever, and it's going to be a game of the generation, but Spider-Man 2 also looks underwhelming. Spider-Man 2 is going to be mid, or it's just, it's just another sequel, boring, cinematic game, yada, yada, yada. You know how it is. And, just people completely downplaying something like Spider-Man 2. And for some reason trying to compare, these two games. But you know what I feel confident in saying? And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, whatever. So be it. I think everybody would be a little bit surprised. I wonder if all those people who did that, you look at Metacritic, Starfield's sitting at an 85. That's not bad. I want to make that abundantly clear. Sitting at an 85 is good. That is a good game based off of, a bunch of reviews. It's a good game, but it's sitting at an 85. I feel pretty confident that Spider-Man is going to review higher than an 85. And I'm not saying that means objectively at the end of the day, see, Starfield sucks, Spider-Man 2 is better. No, but I just think it's going to be pretty funny how quickly, potentially, if this is how it actually goes down, like if Spider-Man reviews at an 88, an 89, maybe possibly even in the 90s, which I don't know. We'll see if that happens. But if that does happen, it's going to be pretty funny to me how quickly these guys are going to experience the blowback. All the people who partook in this conversation where it's like, let's throw Spider-Man 2 under the bus. Let's kind of, dogpile on PlayStation fans and Sony, you know? And then Spider-Man 2 comes out and it's like, well, I don't know what to tell you. Turns out people were excited for Spider-Man. Turns out it's going to be a good game. Who at this point, who is doubting Insomniac? I don't get it. Like, I just don't understand. I mean, I'm seeing people get so upset and so bitchy, frankly. I'll just be straight up. Like, I see people getting so bitchy about every Sony related thing. Like, I get it. They put the price of PlayStation Plus up. That sucks. That sucks, Sony. The hell. But I'm noticing things like, and this is what we're going to talk about. This actually helps me segue right into the first main topic. Horizon Forbidden West Complete Edition has been officially rated. So this is a thing that's coming. This is a thing that's about to be announced. And it's a clear-cut sign that Sony is getting ready to make an announcement. And it'll probably be announced for PC as well, if I had to guess, this Complete Edition. But it's like, you put this news out there. It's like, hey, Horizon Forbidden West Complete Edition, it's coming. And people start to bitch. And they start to complain. And they're like, why is Sony doing that? Sony's so annoying. Sony sucks. They just, like, what are you talking about? Like, do you even, like, these people, I swear, man, they don't even know what they're talking about anymore, because it's like, this has always been a thing. Literally always in this industry. Complete editions are a thing. Almost every major AAA game that has DLC eventually gets one. And especially for Horizon, they did this for Horizon Zero Dawn in the same year it launched. At the end of 2017 in December, they gave a complete edition for Horizon Zero Dawn. And I think the reason why I'm focused on this is simply because it proves something to me, and it proves that people just want to bitch for the sake of bitching. They don't even know what they're bitching about anymore. They don't even know what they're talking about. They just know that, hey, I was told that Sony's bad and Sony sucks and PlayStation sucks and we should just bust the balls of PlayStation fans, so that's what we're going to do. And they do. And it's like, do you realize how dumb you sound and how whiny you look? And I get it. I'm whining about the whiners. But it has to be said, right? Like, it has to be acknowledged that these people who dogpile, I don't know, man. You would think by now there would be some kind of universal understanding between all groups of people that if you're going to dogpile on something and if you're going to talk shit, expect it to come back around, because it will. You don't know when. That's the secret. Could be years. Could be months. Could be literal days. But you know how it's going to be. If Spider-Man 2 ends up reviewing better than Starfield, you're going to see people out there making all sorts of excuses. I just think people should do what I said, frankly. Not that I want to tell people what to do, but I think, it's good advice. Just gravitate towards what it is you want to play it and enjoy it. And it's fine if you want to get involved in the conversation, who's saying what, what's the controversy today. I get that. It's going to happen. But people really, I think, just need to sometimes take a step back and realize, like, who cares if Starfield's an 85? Who cares if Spider-Man 2 reviews better than it? I know some people are going to care. I know some people are going to talk about it, but just realistically speaking, when you go to sit down to play games at the end of the day, just make sure you're having a good time. That's all. Just make sure you're having fun, because, I put out this post, and I think some people, it's crazy to me how even some people will try to disagree with something as simple as just play what you want to play. Who cares what other people have to say about it, right? Just play what you want to play. Everybody is going to have criticisms, and that's fine. Have your criticisms, but when your entire focus is about hating something, not enjoying something, it's only about the negative. Yeah, it's only about the drama. That's all there is. There's no room for good. You've lost the plot entirely. Why? Like, you're not gaming at that point. I don't know what you are doing, but that's not gaming. Because the last time I checked, the point, like the literal point of engaging with the act of playing video games is to have fun and to get some type of enjoyment, to get something, right? Something positive, something that we would consider good. And so for people who just spend all of their time doing nothing but focusing on hating, shitting on something, you're not gaming, dude. You're not gaming. Anyway, I got a couple chats here. Let's see. BGUK says it's your first time super chatting. Thank you for becoming a member, man. And for the super chat, you're saying MBG, being a content creator can be quite lonely. Always remember, as a small content creator myself, it is people like you that I look up to. You always turn up and try to build an awesome community. Well, thank you so much for that, man. That's very, very kind of you to say. And yeah, honestly, I don't think about that. Truthfully, like, I don't really think about like how other people who are trying to do something on YouTube or, on any other platform, maybe they do come here and find some type of inspiration. So appreciate that, man. And, I wish everybody the best out there. So thank you for that. And Kevin G, you're saying Starfield is mid. I'm playing it right now while watching. I'm bitter that no more day one Game Pass drops. They use early access, bro. That is the release. Yeah, I mean, look, man, I'm over Starfield completely. I mean, I know I just had that conversation, but I mean, generally speaking, like, I'm just in the mindset of, okay, Xbox had their time in the sun. Microsoft fans had their time in the sun. Their big game is out. Hopefully they're out there enjoying it and playing it. I mean, with the way some people are acting on the internet, you can tell, like, I don't know where they're finding the time to play the game for as much time as they spend defending it. But, I hope they're out there enjoying it. My focus right now is like, okay, let's go, Sony. Now it's your turn. We know what Sony likes to do. It's what they do best. They say, you know what, let's save the best for last, so to speak, right? Maybe it's a little bit arrogant. But Sony, I think that they live up to that most of the time, if not all of the time, right? I mean, it is a little bit arrogant to kind of have that, like, yeah, we'll go last. People are, oh, Sony, yeah, they save the best for last, right? But they live up to it. And yeah, Spider-Man 2, yeah, it's a sequel. Yeah, it's going to be doing a lot of the same things as the first game. But I promise you, when Spider-Man 2 releases, there's going to be a lot of positive talk around it. And I think most of that positivity is just going to be centered around the same thing it always is with Sony's big single-player releases. And that is, wow, this quality, man. This quality. This is that PlayStation Studios polish and quality that we've come to expect. And that's my expectation. That's my standard. This is why I just honestly am truly baffled by people who continue to try so hard to downplay Spider-Man. Like, if you don't like Spider-Man and you're not excited for it, I get it. But at the same time, like, I see people that they just, here's another good example. And I'm sorry to keep focusing on this, but it's just the stuff I see, man. And I can't help but bring it up here. I put out some new screenshots, because actually there were some new screenshots of the open world for Spider-Man that was just released. It was, I think one of them was Times Square, right? And it was captured on the PS5. And I posted this on X.com, right? I posted this and I just simply said, here are some new Spider-Man 2 screenshots. And I kid you not, see, sometimes I look for this because I want to see, like, how many people just lie in wait. And oh my God, it's so sad. One of the first replies I got, I mean, within minutes, not even minutes, less than that, like a minute, was a person who somehow, I don't know how they had it ready to go this quickly. They must have already had the screenshot ready to go, where they drew lines. I mean, like, they were an NFL commentator, right? Drawing these lines, circling things, highlighting all the things wrong with it, and then posting this long post basically saying how there's something wrong with it. And just out of curiosity, I went to go check this person's profile. And something that was made very clear is, like, this is a PC gamer. I specifically said in my post that this was captured on PS5, but this is a person who plays on PC, right? And I was like, okay, let's sit back and watch. And they were getting some upvotes, but they were getting a bunch of replies. A lot of people kind of arguing with them, saying, like, bro, what are you talking about? Like, it looks great. Like, it looks good. And I was waiting for this person to say one thing in particular, and I was waiting for them to admit that they are not planning on playing Spider-Man 2 on PS5. That's what I was waiting for them to admit, because they're sitting here lying in wait, ready to critique every little thing about the game. But I want to know, are you going to play this game on PS5? Do you have a PlayStation 5? And they said, no, I sold my PS5. I'm going to wait till this game comes out on PC. Then what the fuck are you doing here? Is my question to you. What? And the answer is they don't know why they don't know what they're doing there. They just want to cause problems for no reason. You're not buying a PS5. You don't have a PS5. You're not playing Spider-Man 2 on PS5. You said it yourself. You're going to wait years for it to come on PC. So why do you care to critique what may be missing in the PS5 version? This is the type of stuff I'm talking about, and we need to call it out sometimes because we need it to stop, because it's so stupid. It's so dumb. It's ridiculous. MPG had 4 coffees today. So actually, it's funny you mentioned that. The other day, I think it was on Friday, I was like, you know what, maybe I'll cut down on my caffeine a little bit. I normally have like 2.5 to 3 cups of coffee a day. Decided to have 1 cup that day. I'm like, I'll be fine. Dude, oh man. By the time I got to the late evening, I was messed up, dude. I think I was straight up having withdrawal. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Tomorrow it's back to my normal dose of caffeine. And I think it had a bit of a rebound effect. You know what I mean? But I don't mean to be so ranty. I mean, I know you guys probably enjoy it. I don't mean to be so ranty and whiny right off the bat here, but it's just this stuff I see, and it's like, I'm not telling you have to be excited for Spider-Man 2. I'm just simply requesting, can you just leave the people who are excited? Can you leave them be? You know? Like, unless you, like, you know, like I see some good comments from people. Like, I see somebody say, like, oh, I'm happy for you guys. Like, I appreciate that. Thank you. We need more of that. We need more of that. Just, you know, you want to be engaged. You want to partake in the conversation, but you don't, you know, you're not shaking the cage for no reason. I appreciate stuff like that. So Kevin G, yeah, I don't know, man. And when it comes to the whole Starfield conversation, I'm over it at this point. You know, people are enjoying it. Some people aren't. I mean, I see there's all these hot takes and whatnot, and I'm just like, whatever, man. People keep saying, dude, go play Starfield, go play Starfield. Do you know why I'm not going to play Starfield? Because I'm not going to like it, and I'm not going to have anything good to say. And you know what happens if somebody like MBG plays Starfield? MBG plays Starfield full well knowing he doesn't like Bethesda RPGs. He's not interested in this. The gameplay hasn't sold me even a little bit. I think the game graphically looks horrible, right? Not that that's a big deal, but I'm just like, dude, I don't know, man. It doesn't have much going for it. Just to me. I'm like, I'm just not interested. But if I force myself to play it, I'm going to put hours into it. I'm going to come back and be like, this game is exactly what I thought it would be to me. Bad. Not good. I don't enjoy it. And if I do that, people will be like, oh, what a hater. PlayStation fanboy doesn't like Starfield. So I'm not even going to bother. There's no point. I can assure you, there's no world in which I will enjoy Starfield. Well, what if it was a PS5 exclusive? What if it was a PS5 exclusive? Still wouldn't enjoy it. Hate to break it to you. Saying that's a bad take. It's not a take, dude. It's me telling you the honest truth. The honest truth is I could sit down and play Starfield. And you know what's crazy is I heard the intro is a drag, dude. So could you imagine that? Could you imagine somebody like me where it's like, I really am not excited for this, but you know, everybody's talking about it. So maybe I should give it a shot. Right? Maybe I should give it a shot. And it's like the intro, it's not very good, man. It's going to take you some time to get through it. I'd give up. I know I would give up, dude. I've been down this road before. No, it's no offense to Bethesda. It's no offense to Starfield. People keep saying you're going to play Starfield. You should. I'm not going to, man. It's not a game that was ever on my radar. Ever. Even when I heard the rumor way back, oh, it might be a PS5 exclusive. Like, okay, yeah, cool. It's a big get for Sony if that happens, but I'm good, man. I'm good. All right, let's see here. We got The Furious. Again, thank you, man. You're saying Spider-Man will likely be PS5's best-selling exclusive, just like 2018's. With PS5 already dominating the sales conversation, the added momentum will be nuts. Yeah, and so this is why we're going to talk deeply about what to expect from Sony if they actually do plan to announce something next week, because what you're saying is absolutely true. And I think a lot of people remain unaware of this fact. They remain unaware of the fact that PlayStation isn't in a position where they have to react to anything. I know that, and I put pressure on them like this as well. I'm guilty of this. But the harsh truth is they don't have to react to it. I would say the only thing they actually have to react to is their own announcement of PS Plus going up in price. Like, we really need Sony to come out and help justify that. They do. I just think that people need to be, or try to be, aware. I'm not saying you have to say it's okay, but just try to be aware of the fact that PlayStation is going to lean heavily on Spider-Man 2, because why wouldn't they? I mean, really think about it. Like, what reason does Sony have to not lean into Spider-Man 2? They have no reason. They know it's going to do not just, I mean, I always use the term heavy lifting, but it's going to, like you said, it's going to sell an immense amount of PS5s, not just at launch. Like, that's the thing about Spider-Man 2 and games like it. Games like Spider-Man 2, it's not just about, okay, we're going to leverage this game for like a month. No, Spider-Man 2, whether anybody wants to accept it or not, and I know sometimes it can be annoying, but it's just the harsh truth, like I said, is that it's going to sell PS5s for months at a time. Like, Spider-Man 2, frankly, could carry Sony for at least 3 to 4 months. That's just how it is. And, people always say, oh, it's like one and done. It's like, well, okay, that's one way to describe single. I never understood the one and done thing. Like, what's one and done games? Like, the fuck? Like, don't we like that? Isn't that what a single player game is? Don't we like, suddenly now we don't like single player? You get what I'm saying? Like, what's up with that term one and done being used as like a negative? Like, one and done, that sounds like a single player game to me. Sign me up. At the same time, you see people constantly out here being like, yo, I'm tired of live service. I'm tired of these multiplayer games. Even though they're the opposite of one and done. They're like lifetime games, forever games. Man, I don't know. I'm in a ranty mood today. I don't know why. But yeah, that's the thing, dude. The Furious, you're right. The added momentum is going to be big, and that's why I'm so fascinated and so interested to see what Sony may have to announce next week or this week. I keep saying next week, but it's Sunday, so it's technically the start of a new week. I want to see what they may have to say, because it could be anything. It really could be anything. I have my thoughts, and I'm going to get into that momentarily here. I know you guys are waiting. I'm going to get into it. I apologize. I just got to get all the rants out of the way. Imagine calling Metal Gear Solid one and done. Yeah. You're saying one and done means they raised the price, but you don't get more gameplay out of it. I disagree, man. Like, I mean, I would argue, see, I've argued that some of Sony's games are too long, actually. And I get what you're saying, gameplay, but I don't know, dude. I mean, the last first party title I played, like the new first party title release, was God of War Ragnarok. And there was no point in that game where I'm like, oh my God, okay, like the cutscene's too long. No, like it was perfectly balanced in that sense. I do think the game was a little bit long in the tooth, longer than it had to be. And that's not always a problem. It's just sometimes how I feel. But generally speaking, it's like, I don't know, man. I'm telling you now, man, people just want to hate for the sake of hating. They do. They do. I'm not saying there aren't valid criticisms. There are. But people who are like, I don't listen to anybody who uses the term one and done, because that's not an adequate way to describe literally any of Sony's games. Like, that's not an adequate way to describe any game, because that doesn't tell me anything. Like, literally the only thing I get out of the terminology one and done is you're telling me it's a single player game, that if you play it and you beat it, you don't have to go back and play it. Like, it's a complete experience. That is, like, to me, it's almost a positive term. But it's weird because I always see people using it in a really negative context, and that's what baffles me. And that's why it's hard for me to pay much attention to it, because it's like I don't like what are you trying to say right now? If you're saying Sony's games are bad, just say that and we can have that conversation. Saying I think it mean Josh, you're saying you think it means replay value is not a priority. Yeah, that could be a fair point to make, I think. And that, that is interesting to me, because I don't know how you guys feel about replayability in single player games. I like there to be just a little bit. I don't need a lot. And I guess maybe that's just my expectation going into single player games. When I buy a single player game, I'm expecting the first experience, the first go around, to be good enough, frankly. Like, that's my expectation. Final Fantasy 16, one and done. Yeah, dude, I'll tell you, Final Fantasy 16 was a game that when I played the entire thing, I was just like, yo, I do not need any more. I am good. Like, I am more than satisfied. But because I wanted to get the platinum, I had to replay it in Final Fantasy mode, which, to be fair, if I wasn't getting a platinum, I wouldn't have replayed it, because I'm like, dude, it's exactly what I wanted. I got everything I wanted out of it. It felt like a complete experience. That's why I'm not sure if I'm going to end up playing the DLC, because it's just like, I got everything I wanted out of the game. Returnal's an interesting one. And Returnal's a game that handles replayability very well, where it really is about the gameplay loop. And it just comes down to the game design, really. So I'm okay with single player games being designed to not, hey, this isn't supposed to be the most replayable game. I'm okay with that. But I'm also okay with any single player games that are like, hey, we do want to have replayability for those who want it. Nothing wrong with that either. All right, let's see. New Soul 9, you're saying, anyone had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich today? Not today. So random. No, not today. A couple days ago, I actually had one. And yeah, shout out to the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, man. I mean, as an adult now, I feel like I go years without having a peanut butter and jelly. But there is something to be said for just a solid, well put together peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I mean, it really does hit the spot. It does. So, yeah, shout out to the PB&J, man. Ghetto God says he had one last night. There you go. There you go. MVG tries to eat right. Yeah, keyword there being tries. Tries and fails. Cobb Sanity. You're saying here, I can't wait to get that 19 inches of Venom. Pause. On October 20th. Yeah, guys. Just a heads up, that viral post from PlayStation UK saying, treat yourself to 19 inches of Venom, almost 100 million views. I could be wrong, but I don't think there's any other piece of marketing for Spider-Man that has reached that, even close to that level of viewership. Almost 100 million views. That is absurd, dude. All because of the way it was worded. God damn. And they say Sony isn't marketing Spider-Man. Yes, they are. It's just not in the way that you want them to. It's in an unconventional way. Yeah, dude, 100 million views. That is insanity. 19 inches of what? Yeah, that's right. Sony ain't messing around this time. They want you to know about Spider-Man 2. They want you to know about Venom's 19 inches. Anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about right now, man, they are out of the loop. They are 100% out of the loop. And they're probably like, what is happening right now? This is a fever dream. All right, let's see. New Soul 9 again. Thank you, man. You're saying, MBG, have you played Black Desert yet before you play Crimson Desert? No, I haven't. Honestly, I don't know that I'm going to, because once I found out that Crimson Desert is going to be a single player game, I'm like, you know what? I'm good, man. I think I'm totally fine with just waiting for this game to drop and experiencing the single player. And then maybe after that, I could try Black Desert Online. I've heard Black Desert Online is really, really addicting. And I'm not trying to find like a new addiction out of nowhere right now. So, by the way, guys, we have over 700 people here hanging out, which is awesome to see. Thank you guys for watching the stream. Please hit that like button for me. I think we could easily crush 300 likes if everybody contributed. Really helps the streams out. We have 18 May saying, MBG, I need some morality guidance. Is it against the Geneva Convention to toss a lit pillow during working hours? 18 May, I'm going to say don't do it, man. I don't have the full context here, but that sounds dangerous. That sounds unnecessarily aggressive. You want some moral guidance, do the right thing, man. The right thing is whatever that violent tendency is. Just take a step back, take a deep breath, reevaluate. Reevaluate 18 May. All right? I don't want to see anything bad happen to you or anybody else. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Next up, we have Mark Loven. I think I'm saying your last name correctly. Because I remember the people who correct me on their names, and then I always end up forgetting what the correction is, but I think I'm saying it correctly. You're saying, I hope we hear more about DS2 soon. The first was one of my favorite games, also picking up Mortal Kombat 1, day one. Can't wait. What about you? You know what's really funny, really quick about Mortal Kombat 1? Did anybody notice that Ed Boon, the creator of Mortal Kombat, was on Hot Ones? Did any of you guys watch this? If you haven't, go check it out. It was actually really, really cool to see that. Hot Ones usually has like celebrity guests, and it's kind of cool to see somebody like Ed Boon get that kind of recognition from the gaming industry, or outside the gaming industry, I mean. And it was a good episode, man. He handled it like a pro. If you watch Hot Ones, I don't know. I've never experienced like the bomb or whatever. But some people really lose it, and some people start like tearing up and they got like snot coming out. And Ed is just sitting there taking it like a champ, man, like actually just straight up talking and answering the question while clearly this man's mouth is on fire. So shout out to that episode of Hot Ones. That was cool to see. we need Jim Ryan on Hot Ones. That would be something else. They should get Hideo Kojima, but I know he doesn't speak English fluently, so I don't know. But Mortal Kombat 1, I'm really torn on it, man. Like, it does look really good, but I just don't know if I'm going to end up getting it, because it's cool that they have a single player story, and I like that. But I feel like the past like 3 or 4 Mortal Kombat games I played, it kind of had the same exact feel to it, where it's like there's a story and you basically there's a cutscene and then you fight, and then there's another cutscene and you fight, and there's a cutscene. And I don't mind that, but I guess I'm just feeling like, I don't know. I'm not feeling the intense desire to jump into Mortal Kombat 1, mainly because I know once I complete the story, we talk about replay value. I don't expect the story to be that long. I'm going to want to keep playing it, but one of the things I always try to do with Mortal Kombat games is go into the online, and I always end up regretting it and getting really pissed off, because I'm like, I just can't compete. I'm not a fighting game, player, really. And I try to convince myself that I can be, and that maybe I can get good, and I have these online matches, and I'm just like, I can't do this, man. So I don't know. When it comes to Mortal Kombat, I'm still thinking about it. I'm still on the fence. I am. You're saying you want to hear more about Death Stranding 2. Kojima has been teasing for like weeks now that he's been editing something. We have yet to see what that is. Whether it's for, it could be for Xbox, for Tokyo Game Show. It could be that. Could be for PlayStation, and a new trailer for DS2. But I'm with you, man. I would like to see more DS2. I would. My cat is doing something over there. Saying skill issue. Yeah, literally. Literally, yeah. I do not have the skills to be... Well, you know what? To be fair, it's been a long time. It's been a long time since I've tried to competitively play. When I say competitively, I don't mean seriously competitively. I just mean casually, right? Since I've actually tried to verse other players. And I don't know, maybe I don't think it works like that. I don't think people get better with age at like stuff like fighting games, right? But maybe I would be. I don't know. You know what I've been playing a little bit recently? I've been playing a little bit of Call of Duty. I've been playing some rounds. And, let me tell you. I have some pretty damn good rounds. I do. I'm not like that great of a player. I'm really not, but I have some rounds where I surprise myself, man, where I'm like, I think I still got it. Yeah, I think I still got it. Like I'm streaking and whatnot. But but then after like 2 rounds, I'm like, God, this is mind numbing. And then I log off. but, but yeah, I don't know. It's one of these things where I used to play Call of Duty so much back in the day, and I would be pretty damn good at it. And I just like, when I went to go play a couple rounds, I was fully expecting like, oh man, I'm gonna suck, dude. Like they're gonna wipe the floor with me. And don't get me wrong, I have some bad rounds, but I don't know, man. It's a little surprising. Saying you just got the platinum trophy for Final Fantasy 16 an hour ago. Congratulations, Unicorn Gamer. Congrats. New Soul 9 again, man. You're saying Crimson Desert is tied with Black Desert lore. I play the hell out of Black Desert. You'll be somewhat caught up with the colonies plus wars, factions, and races. Yeah, we'll see, man. I would have to imagine, since this upcoming game of theirs is a single player game, they're gonna have something there to explain all that, or at least try to explain all that. To people like me who are gonna be new to it. That's my hope, anyway. I would assume that's what they're gonna have to do. It would be kind of weird if they didn't, right? Yeah, boss is chilling. But New Soul 9, dude, thank you for the chats. You have another one here that says, tell me how I told my friend I want 19 inches of Venom, and my dad wanted to have a sit down with me. Uh, he told me he heard me talking over the phone. God damn, dude. What is Sony doing out here? Sony's getting people in all types of situations trying to market this Venom statue. And Ben, thank you for the donation, man. Really appreciate it. All right, so let's dive into this here. What is it that Sony is getting ready to announce next week? Is it a state of play? Is it a showcase? Well, I'm going to go over where this information's coming from. Okay, we're going to run down all the sources so you'll know exactly where it's all stemming from. First and foremost, we have Jeff Grubb. Okay, Jeff Grubb, he is the only person that I'm aware of that seems to be in touch with somebody who knows when Sony is doing state of plays and showcases. He was the only person who correctly leaked the February state of play this year, and he was surprisingly the only person who correctly leaked the May showcase. I want it to be known that no one else seemed to have any insight into this information, but Jeff Grubb says that a stated play is coming soon, and he said that the stated play is going to be in response to the PlayStation Plus price increase. So that's the first thing. The second thing now is we have Shinobi 602, who apparently he doesn't really leak much stuff anymore, but he has been known to leak some things from time to time. He used to leak a lot more back in the day, I think, when he was more connected to the industry. But somebody recently said the lack of communication from Sony at this point is sad. And Shinobi 602 replied by saying, well, this week is over now. And, a lot of people in this thread were basically taking that as him directly teasing that this upcoming week, this week's over, new week starts. Let's see what Sony does communication-wise. And, it's not like the biggest tease, obviously, but when you pair that with what Jeff Grubb recently said, it seems obvious. But to me, the biggest sign here, like the most obvious sign, is, as I said, Horizon Forbidden West Complete Edition was officially rated. Okay? So if there was any doubt that Sony has something coming up, they have something coming up. Like, there's literally a new game that they're going to announce. It's not a new game, but a complete edition of this game that they're going to announce. But on top of that, like I said, we have We have Kojima teasing that he's putting together some kind of trailer. I'm not saying he's going to be part of it. But let's get to the real question here. The real question that everybody wants the answer to. What should we expect? Yeah, really quick, actually. Helldivers 2. Just want to put it out there that Helldivers 2 is set to release this year. The last rumor we heard, or leak, I should say, was that Helldivers 2 is set to launch in October. And yet, we haven't heard a single word. So, yeah, that's going to have to show up soon. There are plenty of other games, right? There are plenty of other games. But to me, the question that people have on their minds right now, is Sony doing a showcase or is this going to be a state of play? Because that's going to dramatically impact how people feel about whatever it is Sony may have to say. If Sony comes out and they say, hey, show up for a state of play we're doing this Thursday, the 14th. I think it would be the 14th. Yeah. People are going to be not happy. They're not. It really would come down to what type of state of play would it be. But if Sony comes out and says, hey, tune into a showcase, well, at that point, people are going to lose their mind in a good way. People are going to go nuts. There were rumors earlier this year that Sony was planning a second showcase. We've went over those rumors in depth. We've entertained them. We've talked about them. And so, I'll tell you what I think. This is not going to be a showcase. I think Sony is going to announce a state of play either tomorrow or Tuesday for later this week. And I think this state of play has the chance to be something good, but it's not going to be like, phenomenal, I guess. And I say that because it's easy to kind of fall into this trap, especially at a time like this when Sony recently just gave bad news of the PlayStation Plus increase and, they go an extended period of time without really saying much. It's easy to fall into this trap of like the second they announce something, hey, we're doing a state of play, like, yes. And I'll be excited for it. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, let's see, Sony, like, what do you got? If you're going to do a state of play, what do you got? Show me. But there have been times where we've gotten state of plays and they have been just flat out bad. Actually, the last state of play we got was flat out bad. We got a state of play in February. I think so many people forgot about the state of play. We got 20 minutes of just kind of meh announcements. And then the state of play ended with 20 minutes of Suicide Squad. It was bad. And then after that, we had a showcase. And that showcase was not good either. So if Sony doesn't do a showcase, I mean, don't get me wrong, there is a chance. I don't want people to, I don't want people who are hoping for a showcase, I don't want them to think that there's zero chance this could be a showcase. There's not zero chance. I'm just saying I think it's highly unlikely. But Sony could come out and shock everybody and be like, yeah, actually, we do have a second showcase this year. They've done it before. It's worth noting. They have done it before. But I'm not expecting it. But if Sony announces that they're doing the showcase in September, then that means this is the final thing they're going to do until the Game Awards. So when we look and we check off the boxes like, okay, February state of play, thumbs up, thumbs down, not good. May showcase, thumbs up, thumbs down, in my opinion, thumbs down, not very good. So if they come out with the state of play, this has got to be thumbs up, guys. Like, I can't fathom Sony going a whole year where every show they put on is disappointing. I mean, that would be truly surprising because it's like, wow, a whole year of disappointing shows. It could happen. It could. But at the same time, I am tempering my expectations. I'm keeping them relatively low. If Sony does a showcase, or not a showcase, a state of play this week, here's what I anticipate. I anticipate there's going to be some smaller game announcements, just a few here and there. Stuff I and probably others aren't going to care too much about. I do think Helldivers 2 is going to show up. I think they're going to have a release date. And I think that's going to make me happy. I think that's what I think. If Sony does a state of play and Helldivers 2 doesn't show up, I'm okay. Well, I'm going to be annoyed. We're going to see something like Silent Hill 2. I'm not expecting it, but it could. Yeah, we could. We could get, that would be an appropriate place, I think, for Sony to be like, here's a new trailer. Rise of the Ronin. Yeah, Rise of the Ronin was announced at a showcase. So there's a lot of possibility with a showcase. I keep saying a showcase, a state of play. There's a lot of possibility with a state of play. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But there's also this question. Are we going to see Spider-Man 2? I think it's a logical question to ask, right? If Sony's going to do a show, I keep saying a showcase, a state of play, maybe it'll be for Spider-Man. And before I continue, we have Exley 3000. Exley coming in out of nowhere, dropping a 10 bomb on us. Huge shout out to you, Exley, for dropping 10 membership gifts. Clearly, Exley's excited for whatever this is going to be. Yeah, W's in the chat for Exley.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm going to give you Venom since we're talking about Spider-Man 2. Thank you for that, bud. That brings us up to 23 members on the day. Huge, man. Huge. Thank you for that, Exley. So doing a little bit of a spread out membership train here, which I think is always nice. So thank you, man, for continually showing that support to me and the channel, actually. What do you guys think? Spider-Man 2 state of play? You think it's going to happen? You know what I think would make for a great state of play? If Sony really wanted to redeem themselves this year, I'm going to give you my high-end expectation. And what I mean by that is, unrealistic expectation. Let me do that. My unrealistic expectation for the state of play... Hold on one second. I got to check something. Dude, I feel like my air conditioner's not working, bro. Like, it's getting really hot in here. Like, abnormally. Like, I'm actually starting to sweat. It's getting abnormally hot. Hold on. No, it's working. Sorry, it's working. I don't know why the hell it's so hot in here right now, dude. I don't know if it's this light or what. Sorry about that. All right, let me try this again. My high-end expectation, my unrealistic expectation. You know what Sony could do if they really wanted to redeem themselves with their shows this year? Do a 20-minute regular state of play. Yeah, too much coffee, right? Do a 20-minute regular state of play, but have some solid announcements in that 20 minutes. Obviously, have your smaller stuff, but let's maybe throw in an update for Rise of the Ronin. Or if not Rise of the Ronin, let's throw in an update for FF7 Rebirth. Or if not FF7 Rebirth, I don't know, maybe something for Death Stranding too. Just something on the bigger side, right? Something that people would get excited about. I don't think it's going to be something first party related. I see some people mentioning Astrobot. Ooh, now that would actually be quite a surprise there. God of War DLC, that rumored DLC. Now that stuff like that is what I'm talking about. Like, that would make a state of play good. See, Sony doesn't need much to make a state of play good. They don't. And that's the thing. They don't need much. But what we do know is they have stuff overflowing. So like, let's get some Helldivers 2 in there. Like I said, some FF7, maybe a new trailer, if not that. Whatever else, man. Stellar Blade, you name it. Just get something in there. God of War DLC. But then to really cap off this state of play. Again, this is to make up for the lack of the just how underwhelming this showcase was and how underwhelming the first state of play of the year was. Let's throw in another 10-minute gameplay demo or another 10 minutes for Spider-Man 2. Let's do it. I think if Sony did that double whammy, that's almost as good as a showcase, I think, to a lot of people. Again, I'm not expecting that. That is my unrealistic expectation. That is if Sony wanted to go all out and basically end the year on the best note they possibly could. I think, I think having just a 20, because you know what frustrates me? What frustrates me is that Sony is willing to do like 20-minute gameplay demos for shit that nobody asked for. Like, again, in February, here's a 20-minute state of play, and then we're going to give you 20 minutes of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And everybody was like, what? Like, what? So I don't think it's like unrealistic to expect Sony to try to put something of their own, maybe. But then again, I am saying these are unrealistic expectations because I don't want to end up disappointed again. I want to be real. I want to be as realistic as I can, truthfully. And I know, don't get me wrong, like, it's okay to get excited. I don't want to discourage people to get excited or from getting excited. Like, I think it's fine when Sony says, hey, we have a state of play. And that's the thing is when Sony rings the bell, it's okay to get excited. That's what you're supposed to do. But we do have to keep in mind how disappointing this year has been with Sony shows. It has frankly been a letdown. And I'm not saying that it guarantees this one will be a letdown, but it at least keeps me more sober, keeps me just kind of grounded in the sense that, hey, it could be okay, but my expectations are not that high, frankly. Cautiously optimistic. Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. Yeah, that's how I would describe my feelings. I'm cautiously optimistic. Normally, I would just be optimistic, but in this case, I got to be a little bit careful. And you already know that people are going to be expecting something big. And here's the most important thing I want to tell people. Sony is getting ready to announce something this week. No doubt about that. There's no doubt about it. Just keep your expectations lower for one reason and one reason only. Spider-Man 2. I just want people to keep in mind that Sony has the biggest game of the generation so far in terms of just how much attention it's going to get. Biggest game of the generation so far in just about a month. Like I said, they're going to lean on that. And I think we could see that continue with this state of play where Sony wants to put on a little show, give us a little update, but I don't think they feel the pressure to do something great with their state of play. I don't. Sony's had very good state of plays. If you guys remember 2022, Sony had 2 state of plays, one in June, one in September. They were incredible. They were amazing state of plays. People loved them. Sony knows how to put on a really great state of play. But this is 2023. And so there is a chance. But I just think Sony is essentially going to do this little state of play in an effort to... So here's my worry. I want to be honest with you guys. Here's my concern about this state. I'm assuming it's going to be a state of play. My concern is that Sony announces a state of play on Tuesday. The state of play happens on Thursday. It's going to be 20 minutes, and it just sucks. The reason why I'm concerned about that is because it's going to be real bad, in my opinion, from a communication standpoint and from a PR standpoint, if Sony does another bad show. Is it going to like damage the PS5 and damage Spider-Man 2? No, it's not. They're going to be just fine, like Sony and PlayStation. They will be just fine, but it will be not good. Like the conversations we're going to have after that are not going to be good because it's like, I will honestly be asking myself if Sony puts on another bad show, I will have no choice but to begin asking myself, is this what we're going to get from Sony going forward? Like bad shows. Like they don't know how to put on good shows anymore. And I think it'll be fair to ask that question. I do think it'll be fair to ask that question because, again, this is going to be the last thing that Sony does for the year. They could still redeem themselves at the Game Awards. I do want to remind people that even though Sony didn't have a showcase in 2022, they had 2 very good state of plays and they had a great presence at the Game Awards. Sony had a lot of great announcements at last year's Game Awards, and they could do that again this year. But you're saying you think I'm being a bit ridiculous? I mean, maybe. I don't mean to say it like, oh man, Sony's never going to put on a good show again. It's not that, but it's just think of it more like this. Maybe this is a better way to explain it as this freaking gnat shows up again. Oh, where are these gnats coming from, man? Where are they coming from? Is there some kind of like Xbox troll that like keeps pulling up to my house and just slowly releasing a bunch of gnats somewhere? What is going on, man? Why, like, where are these gnats coming from? And I know you guys know it's real because yesterday, even though it was only my members who saw it, yesterday in my members only video on doing an unboxing, somebody pointed out the gnat flew directly in front of the camera like twice. So drain flies, yeah, I'm thinking that might be what it is. I'm gonna have to go clean my drains, or at least one of them, because goddamn, I do not know where they're coming from, and it's getting really annoying. But anyway, here's a better way for me to phrase it. If Sony has another bad show, it's just going to it's going to get me to a point where I just don't think I'll be able to have high expectations or even higher expectations for any show going forward. It'll turn into a situation where Sony, you need to, like, I'll get excited when I see it. And I hope that doesn't happen because that's just not, like, to me, that's not fun. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be excited. Like, I really, really want to be excited about what Sony may be putting together this week, but I have no choice but to, as we said, be cautiously optimistic because of Sony's past shows this year. So, you know, I will say this. Sony just got a lot of, I don't say a lot of backlash, but they definitely got some backlash. They got some backlash with this PlayStation Plus price hike announcement. And I just have to imagine if you're Sony, it's like, well, let's try to cheer up the community a little bit, you know? Let's give them something good, something worth being excited about. And yeah, if not, then I don't know, man. That's just not good momentum there. All right, let me see. I got Piotrek F. You're saying I'm selling PS5 to buy PlayStation Portal. No. Don't do that, dude. Don't do that. You need that. You need the PlayStation 5 to use the PlayStation Portal, man. Unless you're saying you have 2 PS5s and you decided you're going to sell one of them. But keep in mind, man, you need the PS5 to use the Portal. You're saying I'm downplaying the backlash? Well, I don't want to downplay it. I guess I'm just saying, like, I mean, it came and it went, man. That's all. It came and it went. Manalis Lalodakis, you're saying after the PlayStation Plus increase, I believe it's going to be a big state of play or showcase with huge announcements. I'll tell you right now. I don't know why I just said that. So weird. I'll tell you. What is wrong with me today? I will tell you right now. If Sony announced a showcase this week, I would shit my pants. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't shit my. Maybe I would. I don't know. But I would legit be fucking shocked. I would like at that point, I would go off the rails with hype because I was like, dude, second showcase. Secret showcase, you know, people always fucking do the memes like secret showcase. It's like, yeah, I get it. It sounds pretty stupid. But if it actually happens, like Sony's just like, yeah, we got another showcase coming, I'd be like, oh, well, there we go. There we go. You already know. It's like they put on a second showcase. It's like even more disappointing than the first one. Here's 10 live service game announcements, or like 6 live service game announcements. But no, to be clear though, like I'm telling you guys it's not gonna happen, dude. It's not, and the reason why I'm telling you it's not gonna be a showcase is because if it was a showcase, Jeff Grubb would have heard about it and he would have said it's a showcase, not a state of play. That's my feel on it, right? So unless we could be getting into some, all right, I'm gonna tell you right now, this is the most conspiratorial territory I'm gonna get into. I think this stream, so like if you want to make your jokes about crazy MBG, tinfoil hat MBG, make them now. What if Sony got fucking tired of the leaks? And they're like, listen, because if you think about it, think about how easy this would be. Think of it. We don't want our showcase to leak. Okay, we don't want the big surprise to be ruined. So instead, we're just gonna call it a state of play. It's not a state of play. It's actually a showcase. But in our documents and the way we talk about it. This is a state of play. So that way, when it leaks, it's like, oh, they got a state of play. And then they come out and it's like, join us for a showcase. Again, that's the most conspiratorial I'm going to get. I was just thinking to myself, like, why wouldn't they do that though? Yeah, I'm huffing that copium right now. But it's a serious question I have where it's like, why wouldn't they do that? Because wouldn't that be super easy as a way to just kind of confuse people, keep a lower expectation and then maybe surprise and over deliver? Because I always thought about that, like these documents that like clearly people are told, like, oh, we're doing this, or they're sending emails like we're getting this showcase prepared. Like instead of calling it, like, why not just call it a state? I don't know. Maybe they can't do that because it would actually cause severe confusion internally. Like people would actually fuck it up. That would be crazy though. That'd be so funny. All right, let me see. Josh, you're saying I don't envy you at times like this because I know these guys will hype up this announcement and it'll be a state of play for Goodbye Volcano High or some shit. Damn, Josh. Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm saying, man, like, listen, as a community, we have to do this. We have to collectively come together and say we have low expectations. If this is a state of play, we have to do it. We have to, because I swear, man, all it takes is one person being like, yo, I can't wait to see Bloodborne remake. It's like, and it's over. It's over, bro. It's over before it begun. No, but just low expectations. Let Sony win you over if they're going to do a state of play. That is the mindset we should have. I think. That's the mindset I'm going to have. So people were saying maybe I was being a little bit ridiculous earlier. Here's the state of mind I will have if Sony announces a state of play this week. Okay, that's cool. I'm looking forward to tuning in. Sony, I hope you get me excited. I hope you give me something to walk away from that state of play feeling really good about. And if they do that, I'm happy. But I'm not going to go in assuming that's exactly what's going to happen. I want it to happen. You do this for me, Sony, because you want me to tune in. I'm expecting of you. But I watched the last showcase and the state of play before that, and it was concerning. It was concerning. Guys, by the way, hit that like button for me. Let's do it. We got almost 700 people here. Hit that like button. And we got Nick Man gifting a membership. I think this is the first time I'm seeing you gift a membership, dude. Let's get some W's in the chat for Nick Man. Appreciate it, man. That brings us to 24 members on the day. So almost halfway to our goal. 24 members. Shout out to everybody in this community who continues to show their support. And Omen, thank you for the chat, man. You're saying it won't be long before Jim Ryan puts everyone who is bitching lately in their place. by unleashing PlayStation Studios greatness. I'm ready, bro. Omen, I'm fucking ready, man. I am. I mean, dude, Spider-Man 2 is going to be that. It is. I'm not saying it's going to be for everybody, but it's going to be that. But what we really are, what I think you're referring to right now, Omen, is exactly what I've been just focused on this entire year, which is like, Sony, I know you got the goods, man. I know you got the goods. We all know it. We know it. We know they got the games. They got the studios. I've seen the job listings. I've seen them with my own two eyes, man. We know what they got cooking, kind of. We have an idea of what they have cooking. We can smell it. We just can't see it. We can't taste it yet. It's getting weird. But, you know, it's true. I hope so, man. I hope so. I guess the thing is I'm not convinced that's happening this year. I think Spider-Man 2 will be that. I do. But here's the crazy thing I want to remind everybody about. I'm not trying to give anybody hopium here. I'm not trying, but I'm sorry if I am, but we just got to call this too. Listen. Once Spider-Man 2 comes out, we know nothing. We know nothing. There is no roadmap. There are no release dates. There's nothing. So, I mean, you could say just Concord. I'm not even counting that, dude. I'm just not. I know it's got a 2024 date, but I'm not counting it because we don't know. We don't know what that game is, man. We have no idea. So, to me, same thing with Wolverine. I mean, yeah, we could say Wolverine, but it's like, what do we really know about Wolverine? We don't know anything. Well, keep in mind, you're saying Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm talking about PlayStation Studios, like PlayStation-owned studios. We know nothing after Spider-Man. So, obviously, what Omen is saying here is going to be true because it has to be. It is literally not an option for Sony to say, well, that's it. That's all we got. Please buy a PS5. No, they don't. It's not an option. I'm not saying that it means, oh, this is going to be a showcase. I'm not saying that. But that is something we should keep in mind. Spider-Man 2 can carry Sony throughout the remainder of this year if they want. It definitely could. Spider-Man 2 could carry Sony into the first couple months of next year. But after that, make no mistake, Sony's going to have to go big. And I think they're going to. I do. But we'll see, man. We'll see what ends up happening. Fernando, you're saying would be funny if it is only a blog post for the PS5 revision. Oh, man, that would suck. That would suck so bad. It would be something, yeah, but it would suck. I hope. No, come on. It's got to be. I mean, we're gonna get a state of play. I know what I could see happening though. You know what I could see happening is if Sony did the state of play, and they didn't announce the new PlayStation in the state of play, but they did it in a blog post at the same time, like separate from it. I could see that happening. Nick Man, you're saying looking forward to playing it anywhere at home, especially when the TV is occupied by a woman or kids. How about you? Yeah, I'm looking forward to testing it out, man. He's talking about the PlayStation Portal. I did pre-order one, and I'm looking forward to testing it out, really, more than anything. I don't know if I'm going to use it all the time, but I've gotten to a point where I could see myself using it. Yeah, and I want to kind of test to see how convenient it is, how well it works. I want to test it outside the home and let you guys know what that's like. So, yeah, I'm right there with you, man. And you are far from the only person I've seen say this, which is interesting. Waleed is now a game cat, specifically a White Tiger, says hoping for some AAA PSVR 2 announcements from First Party and Astrobot PSVR 2. Also, RE4 remake release date would be awesome. So I will say, because this is, assuming this is a state of play, I'm not saying because it is, it might not be, but assuming this is going to be a state of play that they announce, I wouldn't expect anything from First Party, being honest. Like, my expectations for First Party would be very, very tame. Like, at most, maybe another Spider-Man 2 trailer, something like that. Certainly no new First Party announcements. So something like a new Astrobot game, I don't think it's going to happen, man. I would love to see some new PSVR 2 announcements from Sony themselves. But, you mentioned RE4 Remake. To me, that seems realistic. And that's actually something I'd very much would love to see. As you guys know, I just got PSVR 2. RE4 Remake is one of the reasons why I got it. Like, I want to see this game in VR. Because especially after seeing, like, how well they did with Resident Evil 8, RE4 is one of my favorite games of all time. I already played the remake, really loved it. I'd absolutely love to re-experience the entire thing in VR. 100%. Sounds fun as hell. So, I hope we see that. And Josh, you're saying Lizard looks incredible and Kraven looks badass. Insomniac with the character designs. Wolverine. Yeah, I can't wait to see what Wolverine looks like, dude. I can't wait. I see people kind of talking all the time about, does this character look good? Does that character look good? Does it look right? And, obviously people were talking about how much different Mary Jane looks in Spider-Man 2. And I was like looking at the pictures again recently. I'm like, they look a lot better. Like, a lot better. I don't know if people have really, like, if you put them side by side, like, right, if you put the way the characters in Spider-Man Remastered look right next to the characters we've seen so far, the shots we've seen of them in Spider-Man 2, they look way better. I want to say in my opinion, it is my opinion, but I'm just not sure how you could look at, they look way more realistic. They look more detailed. So I want to say, like, almost from like an objective standpoint, they look better in that sense. But I guess maybe it's also comes down to, for people, like, because Mary Jane, her face does look slightly different. I don't think it looks dramatically different, but it does look slightly different. Like, you could tell they tweaked a couple things, and maybe for some people they don't like the tweaks that were made. It reminds me, like, even Peter Parker. So I'm somebody who actually preferred the original Peter Parker face from Spider-Man 2018. I wish that they just would have kept that model of the character because he looked unique. He looked good, I think. And when they changed the character model, I think everybody kind of got this vibe where it's like, so you're trying to make him look like Tom Holland, right? And I just played Spider-Man Remastered, and I just couldn't get into his look compared to the original. However, I will say, when I'm looking at Peter Parker in Spider-Man 2, they definitely changed his face a little bit. Like, he looks a little bit more mature, a little bit. I don't know. That's really the only word that comes to mind. He looks different, but he looks better. So when I looked at comparison screenshots of, okay, this is Peter Parker from Spider-Man Remastered versus Peter Parker, the shots we've seen in Spider-Man 2, he looks a lot better in Spider-Man 2. A lot better. Miles Morales looks great too. They all look great. So, yeah, man, I think Insomniac does a great job with their character design, and no complaints here. Like you said, man, Kraven looks badass. I think Venom looks insane. And Lizard, Lizard looks really intimidating. So, absolutely. Disco Cobra 2013, thank you for the $20 super chat, man. You're saying, I'm not looking forward to many games from here on out. I'm going to be picking up the Crew Motorfest next week and then waiting for Spider-Man 2 next month. Hope they have physical copies since I like to collect. I'm sure you'll be able to secure a physical copy, man. I'm the same way. My whole thing is I bought the collector's edition for Spider-Man 2, and I know why they do it, because of the digital PS5 and whatever, but they don't have physical copies in the collector's edition, so I'm contemplating whether or not I'm going to buy like a second copy of the game, basically, to have that physical copy. I'm unsure. I'm a little bit kind of on the fence with that. But but yeah, I mean, when it comes to gaming for the rest of the month, man, I don't know. I'm in a strange place right now because I'm in this place where there are essentially three games. You know, there are basically three games that I have my sights locked on, that no matter what, I want to not only play these games but put a good amount of time into them. That is Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake 2, and Helldivers 2. Now, it's not that there aren't any other games I'm interested in, but the other games like Lies of P, Mortal Kombat, and others, it's not that I'm not interested in them. It's just I don't. If there's one thing I cannot stand, is having multiple games to play at one time. It drives me nuts because I can never properly balance it out. I always need, like, whatever I'm playing, I have to focus on it. Unless it's like maybe it's a little bit different with Helldivers 2, because Helldivers 2 is a multiplayer game, so that can be more easily integrated with other games. But I'm like really hesitant to dive into anything immediately right now, like Mortal Kombat 1 or even Lies of P. Like Lies of P, the game has always appealed to me, but I don't know, man. I always have this fear. Like I see people mentioning like Lords of the Fallen as well. And these games look good, but I always have this fear in the back of my head where it's like, is it going to be better than Dark Souls or Bloodborne or Elden Ring? You know what I mean? Because it's like, I'm pretty sure it's not. And it's no offense to these games, but it's just they're clearly trying to do what Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Elden Ring have done. And to me, the games I just listed are they're 10 out of 10s to me. Like they're, you know, it's going to be really, really hard for these games to actually do it better than the originals. And there's just been many times in the past where I've taken chances on these Souls-like games. And they have some aspects to them, like, oh, that's kind of unique and that's kind of different. But I'm like, but I'd rather just play Dark Souls or Bloodborne or Elden Ring. You know what I'm saying? And maybe that's a little bit unfair, but it does kind of remind me of like, it'd be like if a studio tried to make a game that's very much, I don't want to say inspired by God of War, but is literally like, we basically tried to make our own God of War. And it's like, oh, that's good, but yeah, you guys aren't doing it as good as God of War, so I'm just going to play God of War. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we still got that Elden Ring. I'm telling you, that Elden Ring DLC has been in the works for a long time, man. It's basically going to be a second game. And that's why I'm super pumped for a game like Alan Wake 2, because Alan Wake 2 is not I mean, the closest thing you could say is like Resident Evil. But even then, like the last Resident Evil game we got was RE4 Remake, which is a remake. Alan Wake 2, look, we don't get many games like this, dude. I feel like everybody these days is trying to make a Souls-like game. And we have No Face Lord. No Face Lord comes in and gifts a membership, brings us up to 25 members on the day. Again, man, I'm not sure if this is your first time gifting, but thank you so much for that, dude. Thank you for paying it forward. So actually, I don't know how long my counter was sitting at 25 here. I think it counted a member chat. But we are at 25 members on the day. No Face Lord.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Enough from me.
Appreciate that, man.
We're going to have the games
Appreciate
do our
that.
talking.
So yeah, halfway to our goal for the day. But yeah, man, it's for me. It's yeah, Omen. Yeah, that's crazy. It is crazy that some of the biggest games, both Alan Wake and Baldur's Gate, no physical games. It sucks. Yeah, no physical copies. It really does suck. I don't mean to harp on that every time, but the thing is, like, when I look at Alan Wake 2, I'm like, it just looks so good, man. It really does. Like, I just don't. I don't imagine I'm going to be able to pass it up. Oh, and there's another game in there, the Metal Gear Solid collection. I forgot to throw that in there as well. So there's essentially 4 games, which maybe to some people, I don't know, maybe to them that's not a lot, but to me that's a lot. Like, I'm looking at Helldivers 2 as like a go-to multiplayer game that I plan to play, and that's why I'm trying to keep the way clear right now, because the rumor was that Helldivers 2 is coming out in October, and if Helldivers 2 is coming out in October, I'm gonna have to assume it's coming out very early October, like maybe even in just a couple weeks. You know what I was thinking? Maybe there could be a surprise announcement where it's like it's dropping day one into PlayStation Plus. Maybe that's why we haven't heard anything of it so far. I'm not assuming that's what's going to happen, but I'm just saying it's a possibility. And so all these other games, like again, Mortal Kombat, Mortal Kombat looks really good, and I don't, it's going to be one of the highest quality games that comes out this year. But I try to be realistic with myself and like, am I just going to buy it because of the hype factor? Like, it's like, oh, it just dropped in Mortal Kombat, man, and look at those fatalities. It's like, yeah. But I really have to be honest, like, but how much are you really going to play it, man? And like, do you see yourself playing this for like weeks on end, or do you see yourself kind of playing the story and then kind of just immediately moving on? And I don't know. That's where I'm still kind of up in the air with some games right now. But for me, those 4 games are the ones that I'm absolutely locked in on. And I'm interested in how long Spider-Man 2, not how long it's going to be, but how much content is going to be there with Spider-Man 2, because obviously for me, Spider-Man 2 is the big one that I am focused on. And, we still have, again, 40 days, which is a good amount of time. It's not quite here yet. But I do wonder, am I going to be playing Spider-Man 2 for 2 weeks before I beat it? Is it going to take me 2 weeks to beat it? I don't know. I mean, it took me, Final Fantasy 16 was a really long game. It took me, I think, about a month straight, and I mean like playing it a lot, to platinum that game. So I'm expecting to spend a good amount of time on Spider-Man 2, frankly. And it's really, see, this is where Alan Wake 2 is coming out 1 week after Spider-Man 2. There's no way I'm getting Alan Wake 2. There's no way I'm getting Alan Wake 2 the week of release, because I will be playing Spider-Man. If they were going to delay it to get out of Spider-Man's way, they should have delayed it by a couple more weeks, man. At least, like maybe another week. Let me go check something real quick. I see in the chat you're saying, MBG, I saw this rumor on the Gaming Leaks and Rumor subreddit. I think it will be a state of play that corresponds with TGS. It'll be focused on Japanese/Eastern developers. Yeah, I saw that too, but it was confirmed that whoever made up that rumor was actually fake. So they tried to say that this upcoming state of play was going to be focused on Japanese devs, but there's no evidence of that. It could be, which would be interesting, but there's no evidence of that. Hanzo, you're saying, as always, one love to you and the family. Well, thank you, man. Love and blessings to the community as well. Appreciate that too. Saying, question, how many ways did you end the end in MGS3? To the community too. It's funny because I remember when I first encountered the boss battle with the end, I had no idea you could end him in so many different ways. I'll tell you right now, I never did the one where you like don't play the game for long enough and you come back to your save file and he just died from like old age. I never did that one, but it's like, that is one of the funniest things ever. Like to me, that's just absurd. I love that there's a mechanic in this game where it's like, you can beat this boss battle by just not playing the game long enough. I forget how long it was. Wasn't it like 30 days or something like that? So I never did that one. I did try to do the one though, where earlier in the game, they roll him out in the wheelchair. And if you're quick enough, you can actually snipe him in the wheelchair before they roll him back in after the cutscene. I remember doing that. Other than that, I remember just beating him normally. And I forget. I forget how many other ways there were to beat him. I know that there were. Those are the ones that come to mind. I don't know if there was more than that. But yeah, that's so funny to me. See, this is where, we're gonna miss that. If we ever get more Metal Gear in the future, we're gonna miss having those unique moments that clearly only Kojima would ever think of something like that. Yeah, I will tell you, like, the beating the end by waiting like 30 days to come back and play the game. To me, that's one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, that's silly. That's ridiculous. Like, who's really gonna do that? But the thing that really gets me, I really couldn't believe that they gave you the ability to just completely negate an entire boss battle by just shooting this guy. Just like one shot. It's not like you have to time it right, but you can definitely do it. And it just makes it so that you just don't fight him. Like, that's crazy. It makes me wonder if there was ever a player where that was the very first thing they ever did. Like they just immediately shot him and they never realized that there was actually an entire boss battle against this guy. That would be quite unfortunate. Remember the Secret Nightmare game? I do remember that. Yeah, I think that was actually an MGS3. That was awesome. That was one of the wildest things I've ever experienced. The dream sequence in MGS3. That was crazy. Angry Whale. Oh, come on. Angry Whale Watcher, you're saying the Venom pinball machine drops in 1 to 2 weeks, and it's even bigger than 19 inches. It will have a progression system if you scan it with a QR code. That's really... Yeah, I don't pay attention to pinball, man. I don't pay attention to pinball, but I didn't even know that there was a new Venom. They should put that as a slogan, even bigger than 19 inches. That's crazy to me, the idea of having a progression system in a pinball machine with a QR code. Fascinating stuff, man. Fascinating stuff. All right, let me see here. So, oh, by the way, this is really random. Did you guys happen to see that Roblox is coming to PlayStation finally? Which is kind of funny to me. It's not something I ever really thought about, but it was kind of crazy to think that, like, because the thing is, Roblox is like one of the biggest games in the world, and like they just don't have it. It's just not available on PlayStation. So now it's coming to PlayStation. So anybody here going to play Roblox? You know what's funny? I remember there was the, and I don't know if it's still a thing. I'm assuming it is. There was like this first-person shooter made inside of Roblox that was getting a lot of credit for like almost being as good or better than Call of Duty, and like hundreds of thousands of people were playing it. Like, that's kind of crazy. Sony acquires Roblox. They could try. They could definitely try. Perfect Image, you're saying your daughter plays it. Yeah, I think a lot of kids play it. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with Roblox, and honestly, I don't plan to familiarize myself with it. Just being honest, don't have anything against it. It's just not a thing I'm planning on doing. All right, let's see. So we have the director of sound design at PlayStation Studios. This is what he said about Spider-Man 2. Quote, "I'm not sure the world is quite prepared for what Insomniac Games are about to release. It's stunning, and in my humble opinion, their best work yet." End quote. The hype is getting real, man. The hype is getting real. So according to PlayStation Studio sound designer, the world isn't quite ready for Spider-Man 2. Maybe, I don't know. Do you guys think I think that's a little bit high. I don't know. What do you think? Could it be that good? Could it be that good? Seems hyperbolic. Yeah, it seems like a bit much. Saying 95 plus meta and you'll buy it. I don't think it's going to be a 95 on Metacritic. That would be wild. The only way I could see Spider-Man 2 being a 95 on Metacritic is it would have to do something just totally unexpected, in my opinion. I mean, to get a 95 on Metacritic, I mean, it has to really. A 94 would be super impressive. Honestly, I would be surprised if it breaks 90. I would. I think it can. To be clear, I think Spider-Man 2 can break 90 on Metacritic, but I would be surprised if it did just because I feel like PlayStation has put out so many good games this gen so far. Like they've put out so many good games and not many of them have actually broke 90. I think like God of War Ragnarok and Demon Souls, I think, are the only ones, which is surprising to think, right? I mean, games like Returnal and Horizon Forbidden West, have all reviewed, and Ratchet and Clank, they've all reviewed very well. But if Spider-Man 2 breaks 90, I mean, that would be quite the feat, man. So if they go 90 or above, I mean, that's big. That's big for them. I think they can do it though. I see it, man. I see it in the game. I don't doubt Insomniac. I don't doubt PlayStation Studios. I think it's all going to come together. I do. They've been working on this game for some time. What did the original Spider-Man 2018 get? Good question. Let's see. 87 based off of 116 critic reviews. And it's actually sitting at an 8.7 with a user score. I think Spider-Man 2 could... See, if Spider-Man 2018 got an 87, I definitely think Spider-Man 2 can surpass that. I really do. The world is not prepared for a Spider-Man game. Yeah, too much. It at least is a good sign of confidence, though, Like, I think the way that's worded is a bit much, where it's like, you're not ready. Like, oh, I think we're ready. I think we're ready. But it gives me a good sign of confidence that, like, yeah, I think this game is going to make a big splash. I do. Anthony, you're saying LMAO, no, Ghost of Tsushima is nowhere near 90 plus. I think Ghost of Tsushima is sitting at an 83. All user scores get review bombed nowadays. Yeah. I don't know why people do that. I really don't understand why people review bomb. What's the point of it? You remember when people review bombed Ragnarok? Dude, you know what I remember? I remember when people called Ragnarok DLC. I'm telling you, man, every big game that Sony has, you just get these like groups of people. They try everything they can to just downplay it, man. I gotta let my cat out real quick. But I mean, really though, every single big PlayStation game, people are downplaying it. The amount of stuff I'm seeing on the internet right now, like just people fighting and whatnot. You know, like in a way, it is kind of entertaining, but Ghost was the best PlayStation release last gen. I mean, I'm mostly inclined to agree with that, man. Ghost of Tsushima was incredible. Ragnarok didn't have enough gods. I almost do feel like that's kind of a fair criticism, which is funny to think. MBG, the point is fanboyism. Anyway, Spider-Man 2 will be awesome. I think Insomniac are trying something new with NPCs and AI. Yeah, that would be really interesting to see how much the AI is improved because the AI in Spider-Man 2018 was okay. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. It was just okay. So it'll be interesting to see if they've made some strides there. What do you think Spider-Man 2 has to hide as a surprise? Well, I think the most obvious thing to hide is we have some playable sections as Venom. I think that would be but I don't know though. Like when I think about it, you know what they could do? They could maybe have one or two sections playable as Venom in the game, which would be a big surprise. I think that would, make a lot of people excited. And after that, they could do like full blown Venom DLC where you play as him the entire time. I think that would be a big deal. Because if you think about it, you know, one of the main things that they have to like reprogram, or not reprogram, but program into the game and design is the symbiote suit, the symbiote abilities with Peter Parker, which they've done obviously. They don't have to really do that much with Miles or, Peter in his regular suit because it's like that's already been established. So they definitely would have had time, I think, certainly to design um, you know, doing something with Venom. I think they definitely could have. So it would be surprising, but not like shocking. Like, oh, I didn't see this coming at all. It would be surprising in the sense that, like, holy shit, this is awesome. Saying the funny part is that Phil and Jim are probably playing golf and smoking cigars. Yeah, dude. Am I going to get Quantum Error? Probably not. Probably not. I've seen some people excited for it. Haven't been paying much attention to it, honestly. You guys are saying you don't want an Atreus game. You know what I think? I don't think we're going to get an Atreus game. And what I mean by that is I don't think the next full-blown God of War game is going to star Atreus. But I do think he will get his own DLC. And I think that'll be kind of like the happy medium, you know? Again, it very much reminds me of Miles Morales, where I think a lot of people would want a full-blown like game starring Miles Morales, as in like this is Spider-Man 2 starring Miles Morales. But I think a lot of people also want Peter Parker, and when they think Spider-Man 2, they do think Peter Parker. So kind of having that middle ground where it's like we are going to give Miles his own game, but it's a little bit smaller in size and scale, and we can get it out quicker. I think that's a great way that they handled it, and I think that if you think about God of War, it would work perfectly. I do. I think it's just right there. Saying it's crazy that we are almost halfway through this generation and Sony's first party single player haven't announced what they're working on. Well, hold on, let me. All right, check this out. We could do this again I think this is a good time to do this because we don't know what Sony is going to end up announcing. Hold on one sec. Let me bring this up. All right. So, looking over here, PlayStation Studios. We're going alphabetical order. Ben Studio. Ben Studio is working on a new AAA IP. It will have multiplayer elements, but I'm thinking it's going to be mostly co-op. You'll be able to play the game solo. The rumor is that this game is going to be some kind of stealth action game. So AAA IP, new AAA IP. There's one from Ben Studio. Blue Point Games. Blue Point Games has been working. They've been beavering away on something for years now, man. We have no idea what it is. So there's two PlayStation Studios right off the bat where they've both been working on games for years. We haven't heard or seen anything. Next up, Firesprite. Firesprite's another one, dude. Firesprite has a single-player AAA horror game in development. Did you guys know this? You know how many people don't know that? They have a AAA horror game in development at Firesprite. They also have a AAA multiplayer game. So they have two, and I think actually they have a AAA multiplayer game that is clearly Twisted Metal, and they have a third game that I think is either an action adventure game or another multiplayer game. But there you go. So there is a horror game in development at PlayStation Studios. You just wouldn't know it because they haven't made any announcements. Guerrilla Games, as we know, they're working on a Horizon multiplayer game in Horizon 3. Haven Studios, they announced the new IP in Fair Games, and that's it. We don't know what the game's going to be like. Housemarque shipped Returnal. They're working on another new IP, by the way. I think a lot of people forget that. Even I forget that. Housemarque has confirmed they are working on a new IP. So far, 3 new AAA IP. 3 new AAA IP that are in development that haven't been announced, if we're keeping track. No, sorry. Yeah, no, 3. I mean, Fair Games is a new IP as well, but it was technically announced. Insomniac Games, as we know, they got Spider-Man 2 coming. They got Wolverine they're working on. And they got a multiplayer game in development. We don't know if this multiplayer game, I don't think it's a new IP, but we don't know what it is. London Studio is working on a new AAA IP. So that's 4 new IP, if we're keeping track. The game has technically been announced in the sense that they put out a piece of concept art. It's like a fantasy multiplayer game. Again, I know not everybody's going to be excited about that, but it's something different. You got to admit, it's something different, and they seem to be putting a lot into it. Media Molecule. I think it's safe to say Media Molecule is going to be working on a new IP. That hasn't been confirmed yet, but we know that they've moved on from Dreams, and they're going to move on to something. So we have to assume it's a new IP. It could go back to Little Big Planet, though. Naughty Dog. Now, Naughty Dog is working on multiple things. They have their Last of Us multiplayer game. David, you're saying it's been confirmed? Oh, yeah, you know what? I think you might be right about that. With Media Molecule. If they are working on a new IP, that's 5 new IP, which is wild. That's actually a lot. That's a lot of new IP. Naughty Dog. Yeah, it'll be a long time till we see Media Molecule's next game, so it's hard to get really excited about that. Naughty Dog has The Last of Us multiplayer in development. Some people are saying they have 3 projects in development. They have The Last of Us multiplayer, The Last of Us 3, and a new IP. I don't know if I believe that, but they could be working on a new IP. But at the very least, we know that they have a single-player game in development as well as this Last of Us multiplayer. Big Turbo 2.0 and IG are saying, don't forget Abandoned. Yeah, how could we forget about that? Dude, it's so, I swear, man, it's so funny to think that that game will always be remembered in some way, shape, or form. We'll never forget it. After Naughty Dog, we have Nixus Software. I mean, they're a PC support studio, or PC port studio, I mean. Polyphony Digital, Gran Turismo 8, eventually. San Diego Studio, they make MLB The Show. San Mateo Studio. Now, it says they're a support studio for second-party developers. And then we have Sony Santa Monica. Sony Santa Monica is rumored to be working on God of War DLC, but they are confirmed to be working on a new AAA IP. So that's about 5 or 6 new IP across all PlayStation studios so far. Then we have Savage Game Studios. They're a mobile game developer, but we're not sure what they're working on yet. Sucker Punch Productions, very likely working on a Ghost of Tsushima follow-up with Ghost of Tsushima 2. Team Asobi, very likely working on a brand new Astrobot game. And then we have XDev, which we know is out there working with third-party and second-party partners. So that's a lot of stuff, man. That's a lot of stuff. That's not counting any of the second and third-party games either. Toad Grusby, you're saying, what is Sony doing about PS3 emulation? That's a great question. I have no idea. I don't know. I mean, the last we heard is that they're doing something with it. But these are all just rumors, and we've never gotten any official confirmation from Sony that they're actually doing it. We've just heard that internally they've been working on it slowly over many years, and it just takes a long time. I hope they are doing something, though. I feel like they have to. Sergeant, you're saying MBG is something everyone else forgets. PlayStation acquired Ballistic Moon Studio, and still not officially. Still not official. I don't think they've acquired them, but Ballistic Moon Studio is a new AAA studio that was formed. God, I don't remember how long. I think it was like a year and a half ago or something. They're also working on a horror game for Sony, a PlayStation exclusive. That did leak out. That could go poorly, you know? It could go poorly. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff there, man. So when people are talking about PlayStation and they're basically saying like, you know, they need to like have another show. They should definitely be able to do another showcase. I mean, yeah, there's enough there. It's just a matter of, I guess, how far along is this stuff? It's hard to determine. It is. I mean, yeah, one of the bigger questions we still have. Yeah, that's true as well, Omen. That's a good point. You're saying don't forget all the potential exclusive deals. Yeah, I mean, we did talk about this last stream where I told you guys that Sony very likely has gotten much more aggressive with their exclusivity deals. You know, now that Microsoft is out here just buying publishers. Phase 2 is coming, believe it. Jim Ryan is trash. We need someone like Phil Spencer for PlayStation. I wholeheartedly disagree. I would not want Phil Spencer running PlayStation. People can pray. Look, we have to call a spade here. Phil Spencer's great at working PR and, you know, talking to the community. There's no doubt about that. He's really great at pumping up the community. All he's done is buy games for Xbox. Okay? Like, I'm not saying that doesn't count for something. It does. Like, believe me, to the Xbox community, that counts for something. But Phil Spencer, in my opinion, has only proven he does not know how to manage game studios, bro. And I'm not saying that as a fanboy. I'm saying that as somebody who watched this man try to manage game studios for about a decade. Maybe now he'll finally, maybe now with Activision and Bethesda under his belt. I mean, I would make the argument. I don't think he has to worry but much about managing studios now because they're going to manage themselves. At least that's the assumption. But I disagree with that, dude. Like, you really do have to wonder. It is a great thought exercise though. Like, what would happen to PlayStation Studios if Jim Ryan was just replaced by Phil Spencer tomorrow? What would happen? Well, actually, I don't know. Yeah, I guess he would take Jim Ryan's spot. I don't know, man. I really don't know. I mean, if I had to guess, I think Phil Spencer would just like look around and be like, "Well, all right, let me just try not to break anything. Everything seems to be running smoothly here. Let me just try not to get in anybody's way or break anything." That's what I would do. Like if I woke up tomorrow and I was in charge of PlayStation Studios, I'd be like, "Well, do you guys ever think to yourselves like, if you woke up tomorrow and you were the head of PlayStation Studios and you could see every game in development, do you think there would be any games you would immediately cancel and say, yeah, we're canceling that? I do wonder about that sometimes. Like this London Studio game. Like London Studio is working on a AAA fantasy game. And I'm like really curious. What does this game look like? What's it going to play like? Because I'll tell you, the concept art didn't get me very excited. Hanzo, you're saying you're heading out, man. Appreciate you stopping by, dude. Appreciate you hanging out as long as you could. You're saying yes, you would cancel every Horizon game? Oh, man. You cancel all the live service games? All right. Let's say you're going to go cancel these games, but then, you're at the board meeting and you're being advised, like they're showing you the charts and everything, like, sir, if you do this, we're going to lose this much money and we're going to we're going to be real. It's going to be too risky. Would you still do it? I don't know, man. See, this is where I think like, you cancel fair games. I wouldn't cancel. I'd want to see the gameplay first. I'd want to see the game itself first. I'd want to see what does this game look like and play like. Is anybody else really confused about fair games? I'm really confused about fair games. Do you know why? I remember in 2021, we got a big interview with Jade Raymond and Mark Cerny and Herman Hulst. And they described their game, this new IP, Fair Games. Their description of the game was literally nothing like what we saw from the Fair Games trailer. They said what they were describing was almost like a more advanced version of Dreams, like a more AAA version of Dreams. And I almost wonder if that's what they started working on. And then Sony, after they bought them, was like, yeah, we already tried that once with Dreams. You're going to have to do something different. And then they were like, okay, you bought us, so okay, we could do that. Because I remember reading about that. And when you look at Fair Games, like that is not, there's literally nothing about Fair Games that looks anything like the way the game was described back in 2021. Sergeant, you're saying fascinating how many people get tired of PlayStation IP within 2 to 3 entries, but are okay with countless Marios, Halo, Forza, Pokemon, and so on. Yeah, I think people need to chill out a little bit with Sony and be a little bit more understanding and forgiving of their pursuit of trying to like build up their IP. Because it is true, man. Like Nintendo is a great example of Like, let's just be real about it, guys. Like, they make not every game, and this is no offense against Nintendo. I'm not saying there's a problem with it, but they basically make the same games. They iterate with their games like over and over and over again, and they refine it to a T, and they get it down to like a science. And people like that. They do. People like that, and they gravitate towards it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with Sony basically saying, maybe we should try to do that too with some of our own intellectual property. I do agree that sometimes it can get a bit much, and it always runs the risk of getting stale. But that's where I feel like, it's good to remind people that Sony has multiple new IP in development, all of which are like AAA games. I'm not saying they're all going to land and be amazing, but they got the games in development, So it just seems like the beginning of this generation was more about delivering sequels for games that people already expected. And we did get some new IP as well. Well, Returnal's new IP. New IP is difficult though, I think any video game publisher would agree with that. Saying most of them are live service though. Well, I will tell you 2 of them are from. So Santa Monica Studios' new IP is single player, as far as we're aware. They haven't said anything about multiplayer, so I'm assuming it's single player. Ben's studio, I think a lot of people get nervous because there are going to be like multiplayer. There's some kind of multiplayer involved with Ben Studio's new IP, but they have not talked about it like it's a live service game. So it leads me to think, like, I want to remind people that Ben Studio was going to have multiplayer co-op in Days Gone 2. I think the creators of Days Gone acknowledged that. They said that they full well had plans to make Days Gone 2 a co-op game. So I'm almost thinking that maybe that's what they're doing with Ben's new IP, where it's going to be a single player game you could play on your own, or you could play it cooperatively. And I'm totally cool with that. That sounds great to me. And so I guess what I mean to say is, like, some of Sony's biggest and best studios, like Housemarque as well. Housemarque's working, I'm assuming, on a single player IP. They haven't mentioned anything about multiplayer. So they're not all multiplayer or live service. Not all of them. And I do understand the nervousness with some of them, where it's like Concord is a new AAA IP, but it's a multiplayer shooter. So it's like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know. I'm trying. I'm telling you, man, like, Sony has to have a fucking ace up their sleeve with these games. They have to. There's no way Sony is dumb enough to think that if Concord is some mediocre, like, bland-ass game, there's no way Sony can think that they're just going to come out here and be like, check out our new first-person hero shooter, Concord. And it just is like, who asked for this? Literally nobody asked it. They have to see. Hermen Hulst, we're going to find out how good Hermen Hulst really is. We are. We're going to find out how good Hermen Hulst really is, because Herman has been in charge of PlayStation Studios since 2019. So by 2024, it'll be about 5 years. And you might think, oh, well, we already know Herman's good. Not necessarily. You have to keep in mind that almost all of the projects, not all of them, but most of the projects that we've gotten from PlayStation Studios since the start of the PS5 generation, those were games that were already greenlit during the previous leadership. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you is the second half of this generation is going to be all Hermen Hulst. And so when we see these live service games in action, like we see the gameplay of these live service multiplayer games, if they look bad, like if they come out like, oh my God, what the fuck is Sony doing? That's going to be on Hermen Hulst. Now, I have to imagine this is the guy who was, Killzone games, Horizon Zero Dawn. He's experienced the best of both worlds here. He knows what it's like to make like a dedicated franchise shooter in Killzone, multiplayer, having a campaign. He also knows what it's like to develop a brand new AAA IP that is completely different, an RPG, an action RPG in Horizon Zero Dawn. So that's why I kind of trust Herman, where I think he's smart enough to know that you can do both. You can, and they can be successful. The big worry that I think people have with Sony and live service is like, I'm telling you right now, dude, Sony's going to struggle. I think. I really do. Like, I don't want them to, but I think Sony's biggest roadblock with their live service games is going to be their own audience. And it's not the audience's fault either. Like, I think it'll simply be because Sony has conditioned their audience to not expect live service games and to expect single player games, which are quite literally the opposite of live service games. And today, I swear to God, man, all you see are people, and this is no offense to anybody, but all you see are people complaining, and I do too sometimes actually, about live service games, right? It's like GTA Online, Call of Duty, Fortnite, NBA 2K. It's all the same. And it's like, listen, I played my fair share of live service games, and I know how they get you. I know what the hook is. Like, if Sony were to ask me, sometimes I wish Sony would ask me, like, what is the hook? You know what the hook of a live service game is? It's very, very simple. It's very, very simple. It's two things. Number one, this is the most important. And I feel like if Sony can nail this, they'll be fine. Maybe they'll have some pushback at first, but I'm telling you, yeah, exactly. Addictive gameplay. You need to have a gameplay loop that feels truly satisfying. But that gameplay loop is dramatically enhanced by the grind. If you can blend those two things together, you have yourself a winner. That's all you need. That is how you make a successful live service game. Once you get people hooked on the gameplay and hooked on the grind, all you got to do is just sprinkle in a little bit of, we'll do some cosmetics there. We'll do some characters here. Just a little bit of microtransactions here and there, and you do that and you're good, man. And so that's why I'm so curious to see how Sony handles live service, because if they hired Bungie, look, Bungie, to a lot of people, Bungie might be like too greedy, or maybe they fell off with Destiny at this point. I don't know. But one thing I do know about Bungie is they know how to make those satisfying gameplay loops, and they also know how to monetize the hell out of them. You could say what you want about Bungie. They do know how to run a live service game. But they're not the only ones. So when I think of all these different multiplayer games that have, these talented studios behind them, it's going to be interesting to see if they land, man, because, I mean, I think one of the other things that some people might struggle with, and I know you guys, I know for a fact this is going to happen. It's already happening. It's the art style. It is. I think a lot of people are going to judge some of these games just based off their art style. And I get it. It's going to be hard not to. Like, this Horizon multiplayer game apparently has the art style of like Genshin Impact / Fortnite. And yeah, like, it's going to be hard not to cringe at that, just because it's like, oh, we see what you're doing here. But what if the game's amazing to play? You know what I'm saying? Like, what if this Horizon multiplayer game is like, holy shit, this is perfect. Like, this is exactly what a Horizon multiplayer game should feel like. You see what I'm saying? And that's where I'm just so curious to see how Sony's going to roll this shit out, dude. It'll be interesting. It will be. Omen, thank you, man. You're saying Astrobot, a game Sony gave away for free, is more ambitious than anything Xbox released in years. Starfield doesn't count. It's a bought IP. Damn. Omen getting unnecessarily aggressive towards that. Omen just straight up throwing punches out here towards Xbox. Nah, dude, I mean, look, man. I feel like I've like bowed out of the conversation regarding Xbox, because it's just that, dude, I really stopped caring about Xbox the day that Xbox fans decided that what Microsoft was doing was good for that. Like that, like, and when I say good, I mean like, yeah, we're good with this. We're happy. I'm good, man. Like I've made it clear, like, if Sony buys a fucking publisher, yeah, we're gonna talk about it. But I'm not gonna be hyping that shit up because it's like, yay. Thanks, Sony, for buying a whole fucking slew of IP and games that I was gonna get either way. Thank you. You know, it's like the things that we are asking for from Sony. I mean, think about this whole conversation that we just had. Nothing I said here has anything to do with Sony buying shit. It has to do with their studios, the talent that they have, and are you going to make good games? Fun fucking games to play. That's the question. This is why I said earlier when somebody was like, yo, they need to get Jim Ryan out of there and put somebody like Phil in. Like, dude, look, maybe Jim Ryan, maybe he is more the corporate type. Maybe he is more business oriented, but he knows what the fuck he's doing, man. He does. And maybe, I don't know, if he doesn't, as yet, we'll see. We're not quite there yet. But I don't know, man. I've just like bowed out of the whole conversation because I watched Microsoft buy Bethesda. I watched them basically leave people on the hook. Is it going to be exclusive? I don't know. I mean, you even see, this is what I'm talking about with Phil Spencer, dude, where it's like people actually try to fucking call me out and shit on me for calling Phil Spencer a fucking liar, or at the very least, like just a fucking, just a fake, right? Like he's just an executive, dude, who just says words. People call me out for that shit, but it's like, do you see what he just recently said about the Elder Scrolls 6? He was asked again. I don't know why this is even a question. And maybe he should. I just wish he would be fucking honest. Is the Elder Scrolls 6 going to be an Xbox exclusive? You would think by now that his fucking answer to that would be, yes, it will be. Right? That's it. That's all that needs to be fucking said. Yes, it will be. I know it. You know it. Everybody knows it. Your fucking grandmother probably knows it at this point. But no, he waffles on and he's like, well, it's on a case-by-case basis and we're blah, blah, blah. Like, shut the fuck up, man. Please. Save it. Okay? Just fucking save it. Like, you don't buy Bethesda, cancel the PS5 version of Starfield to then decide, maybe we'll make the Elder Scrolls. Unless he's trying to allude to some kind of shit where they're not going to make a next-gen console or some crazy shit like that. Now that would be crazy. That is a scenario where that would actually make sense. But it just gets annoying because it's like, this is what I'm talking about, man. Like, this is how the conversation has fucking unfolded for Microsoft versus how it's unfolded for PlayStation. Like, yeah, you can call Sony out, and we fucking will. Sony, thanks a lot, man. Thanks a lot for raising the fucking price of PS Plus and giving us nothing in return. You dick. Thanks. Yeah, we'll say that. But you know what else we'll say is, man, it's kind of fucking weird, right? It's kind of weird how everybody just went from, oh my God, Microsoft's buying Bethesda. Oh my God, are they going to make the games exclusive? Oh my God, they made the games exclusive and canceled the PS5 versions. Oh my God, it's great. Meanwhile, Sony's out here buying like the biggest fucking entity that Sony bought was Bungie, and they explicitly said all their games are going to release on Xbox, no worries. But you know what we say to you, Sony? Fuck you. That's what we say, because Xbox is better. Xbox got Starfield. It makes no fucking sense, dude. Oh, wait, well, I'm sorry. No. No, we actually say fuck you, Sony, because you paid for Final Fantasy 16 exclusivity, and that is unforgivable. That is unforgivable. we do got Starfield. You do, yeah. I was just saying, it's like, this is why I feel like I've had no choice but to reduce the conversation down to, well, Xbox did what they said. They answered people. People said, Xbox, make better games. So you know what Xbox did? They say, you know what? We're going to buy this guy. We're going to take their game. We're going to cancel that PS5 version, and then we're going to come out and we're going to say, this is the game we got for you guys. Enjoy. And then what happens? Everybody enjoys, and they say, yeah, this is a great Xbox game. So it's like, okay, like, it's fair. I guess it's fair because who's here to say it's unfair? Who's going to stop that from happening? Nobody. But sometimes you just got to look at things for what they really are, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to enjoy Starfield being Xbox exclusive, but call it what it fucking is. Just like I'll call, what I'll say? Spider-Man 2 is not a Sony game. Just straight up, it's not. It is a licensed IP. It is a Marvel property. The actual game you play is developed by a PlayStation studio. So if somebody says, well, Spider-Man isn't Sony's, yeah, you're right. You're right. He's saying, MVG, calm down. I don't know why I'm ranting. Dude, I think I'm just getting bored at this point. I'm just waiting for Sony to announce their fucking state of play, bro. But no, you're right. It's not a PlayStation game. Or it's a PlayStation Studios game, but it's not a PlayStation-owned IP. So it's like, well, what's the difference? Right? What's the difference between Sony striking a deal with Marvel to get Spider-Man and what Microsoft did with Starfield? Well, it's like, dude, here's the difference, man. Marvel actually approached Microsoft and asked them if they wanted to make a game exclusively for their platform, which Microsoft declined. So then they approached Sony. And Sony was like, yeah, we'll do that. But, I guess at the end of the day, we just have to equate these things. They're the same. They're the same because it's just like, look, man, yeah, maybe Microsoft passed on that Marvel game and that was a mistake on their part because they could have had something like Spider-Man. But instead, they're like, you know what? We're going to buy Bethesda. We're going to cancel the PS5 version of Starfield. And yeah, I mean, what really did me in, honestly, recently? What really did me in was when I saw Todd Howard saying exclusivity made Starfield better. That's what really did me in, where I'm like, I'm legit. I'm like looking around. I'm like, I'm waiting. I'm waiting to see people calling out Todd Howard for saying that. Because anytime anything like that was ever said about a Sony game or a Sony partner game, we got called out. We got videos made, we got posts made, we got threads made, the whole 9 yards. And I'm looking, I don't see fucking nothing, dude. I don't see nothing. So I'll be honest, I don't even know why the fuck I'm ranting right now. I've lost track, bro. I'm just at a point where it's like, I feel like the conversation has dwindled down to almost nothing at this point. Like, I don't even know what I'm ranting about, frankly. Like, Sony and Microsoft are corporations. They both do fucked up things, but they both do good things. I just happen to think that Sony does things that appeal to me more. Just some of the shit I see people say, man, it's like, which way is it going to be today? Which way is it going to be today? What's the flavor today? There is a difference between buying exclusivity rights for a year equals competition and buying the whole publisher to keep it off the competitor's console. Nobody talking about. What? No. There's no difference. What are you talking about, man? At least that's what I was told. They're the same. They're exactly the same. They always have been. It always has been the same, man. And it always will be. Maxwell, dude, thank you for the super chats, man. I'm being sarcastic, by the way. Because I see you saying no. It's just a little bit of sarcasm, man. I see this was removed. Why would you see anything? Sony did it first all of it. Microsoft is responding. Chill out. Just hope that Sony announces something because of the bad. Well, I want keep in mind, dude. Like, I don't have a problem with the things that Microsoft is doing. I don't. Do you know why? I don't have any problem with anything Microsoft's doing because it's within their right to do it. And I think that's where the confusion around the things that I've had to say lies. Is people? Don't get me wrong. There are some aspects of Microsoft that I really am not fond of. There's just some things where it's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Do your thing. I'm not into it. But the thing that gets me, it is how people choose to one day say, you know what, exclusives are not good. They're anti-consumer. And they don't just say that, like they run with it, right? We run with that. And if anybody out there is pumping up any kind of third-party exclusivity or studio acquisition, whatever it is, well, no. It's anti-consumer. It's like, okay, I can understand that side. And then they run with it and they run with it. But then when their side, again, like in this case, Todd Howard, says the exact opposite. Hey, our game's better because it's exclusive. And it wasn't originally going to be. Our game's better because we canceled the PS5 version. And you just silence. There's just silence. That's the type of stuff I'm talking about. And it's all over, man. It's all over. I mean, there have been like literal months at a time where the narrative was, let's talk about how bad exclusivity is, how anti-consumer exclusivity is, how bad Sony is because they signed third-party exclusivity deals. It's bad for games. It's bad for gamers. Like, okay, that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with taking that stance at all. But I guess I just find it strange that when a lot of the people who were taking that stance, I mean, this would be the equivalent, no joke, this would be the equivalent if like Jim Ryan said, if like Herman Holster, Jim Ryan came out and said that, exclusives, it's still bothering me. Exclusives are bad for PlayStation. Exclusives don't sell consoles. I mean, think about that. If they said that, it would literally make every PlayStation fan who's ever said that look foolish. Any PlayStation fan who's ever said, "Oh, exclusives sell consoles and exclusives are that's PlayStation's greatest strength and it's good for the PlayStation brand or whatever," it would make them look foolish. But it's and I guess I'm just saying, like, what's the harm in acknowledging that? What would be the harm? Like, would those people stay silent and just say, "Oh, well, yeah, I guess he's right," or would they turn and say, "No, I think you're wrong"? Because I'll tell you, I don't see people doing that right now. I don't. Like, I don't see a lot of people focusing on the fact that, guys, your boy Todd Howard over here is telling us that Starfield's a better game because it's exclusive. Like, he's saying that it's good. Exclusivity is good. It's good to buy games and lock these in as exclusive. You know what I'm saying? Like, where's that energy? It's not there. It's not. Well, frankly, it's probably not there because these guys are too busy defending Starfield, which I guess is understandable, like it is under attack by people who, I mean, I've seen somebody mentioned Astrobot earlier. Something I saw that was ridiculous? I saw somebody put out a post where they were like 40 million plus copies of Astrobot sold, 6 million players on Starfield. Basically pointing out like Astrobot crushes Starfield. Like, bro, there's no way, man. Like, come on. See, it's shit like that that's like, if we're going to try to keep the same energy, and call stuff out. Like, you can't be putting shit like that out there because that's just fucking stupid. You know what I mean? It is a little bit funny, I guess, but it's like, come on, man. Come on. You're causing causing useless drama here. It's reverse psychology. All right. Let me read these super chats. Look, just to sum up what I'm saying, because, I'll probably get clipped for everything I just said. Like, oh, RPG's having a meltdown over Starfield. Look, this is all I'm trying to say. Let me simplify it before I read these super chats. We should all truly just try to keep the same energy. And that's all I've been trying to do here, where I don't actually have a problem with Microsoft buying publishers, buying games, making games exclusive, because I realize, you know what? I've never had a problem with Sony doing it. The thing that truly caught me, and I think many people off guard, is Microsoft, when they decided to do it at such a large scale. I do not view a publisher being purchased as the same as a single game being locked as a year exclusive or even a permanent exclusive. They're just not the same thing. They produce the same results at first, but in the long run, they're not going to be the same thing. However, I am willing to see them as the same thing as long as we all just agree, because I feel like truthfully, like, look, even for the people who like hate me and make fun of me and try so hard to twist my words and take shit out of context, I think we could all at least agree that it's okay for a video game platform holder to find a way to get exclusives. Whether that's building their own studios and making them from the ground up, whether that's, buying smaller teams and growing them, or whether that's buying publishers. I think at this point, we all just have to shake hands and agree that, look, these guys, these companies, Sony and Microsoft and others, they're at war with one another, and they are going to escalate when they feel they need to secure exclusive games. So rather than arguing the semantics of it, which at this point, I guess it is, everything's been said, right? Rather than arguing the semantics of it, let's just all agree to keep that same energy, and that it's okay for these publishers and these platform holders to secure exclusives, because I've realized that regardless of how I feel and how anybody else out there feels, like, what's going to happen is going to happen, man. If Microsoft wants to buy a studio and cancel their PS5 versions, they're going to do it. But Sony has the ability to do the exact same thing. So that's all. Just to be clear with what I'm trying to say, we just have to keep the same energy. I just feel like if you're somebody who says, I think exclusives are consumer and they're not great, and Sony's fucked up for securing Final Fantasy exclusivity and whatnot, and going after all these games, then okay, just make sure you keep that same energy when Todd Howard comes out and says that actually Starfield's a better game because Microsoft bought it and secured it as an exclusive. Just, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm trying to say, and I don't think that's unreasonable. I think it's true. Anyway, Maxwell, you're saying, if I was PlayStation CEO tomorrow, I would replace my PR community and PR team, then grow every studio to 500 plus devs, each studio making 4 games, 2 teams each studio, cut the price of PSVR 2 to 400, PlayStation Portal to 100. Interesting. You're saying also I would have every single benefit of PlayStation Plus extra to premium, get rid of extra, and then premium I'll add day and date games on a case-by-case basis and give you a choice for Disney Plus, Apple TV, or Max. I think actually all of that sounds pretty solid. Like, most of it sounds pretty solid. The only thing I would encourage you to think about here, because that, like, you mentioned we're just going to drop PSVR 2 to 400, especially what you say about the growing the studios, right, and the teams. The PR thing I would agree with maybe. Yeah, that's it. Leo's pointing out, like, you have to take a second and consider how much would all of that cost, and how are you going to recoup that money? Because that's the struggle here. And I'm just saying, if you're thinking from the CEO's position, because I think from just a consumer position, like, all of that sounds fantastic. But you do have to consider the logistics of growing every PlayStation Studio team to 500 plus. How are you going to do that? How are you going to afford that? And how are you going to retain that? How are you going to sustain that? These are all things that you do have to ask. And I guess like the assumption is I do think Sony to a degree is actually already trying to do that. Um, you're saying cut the price of PlayStation Portal to 100. That would be cool too, but again, you do have to consider how much does it cost to manufacture. So assuming it costs more than $100 to manufacture, you're going to sell every PlayStation Portal at a loss. So, what's at that point, what do you I guess I'm just saying it's like you would have no choice but to report that, oh, like we're selling PlayStation Portals and we're selling a good amount of them. And then like when the shareholders ask, okay, well, how much money did it make you? It's like, actually, it lost us a bunch of money. You see what I'm saying? It's like this is why Microsoft has totally fucked up the conversation. And it's not just Microsoft. Like subscription services have totally fucked up the conversation around value because companies have gotten desperate to get people in the fucking door, dude. Like to just we need to just lower it even if it's temporary and be friends with these guys and get them in and get them in. And now all these companies are realizing, again, not just Microsoft. All of these companies are realizing like, holy shit, we have to increase the price. Like every other week, I swear I'm seeing a new article coming out saying that so-and-so streaming service is increasing their price. And people being like, what the fuck? Like, why? Like, there's nothing on here that makes that justified, right? And you're just seeing more and more that like the sub-service model bubble is slowly beginning to burst because it turns out that there always was something when people said this might not be that sustainable. They weren't talking about for you and me. Of course it's sustainable for you and me. They weren't even talking about even really the art involved, like the artists involved. It was a question of, is this sustainable for the type of profit that shareholders expect to make? Is this sustainable for the type of output that they expect to achieve in terms of quality to quantity ratio? And it's not that it's impossible. It's just it is proving that it's gonna. We need more money. Like that, there's just no fucking way around that. The companies are making it clear we need more money. And this is why I've always been so skeptical of the way Microsoft is carving out their own path. I think it's fine. Like they're doing it the way that they should, in the sense that if you can do it, go for it. But it's like people need to see it for what it is. It's a multi-trillion-dollar company that does not care right now about spending and losing money. That people need to see that. And it's fine if you gravitate towards that. You should. Fuck it. If they're paying for you, or if they're if they're doing it on their dime, go for it. But you just have to keep in mind when you're taking a holistic viewpoint that that's not realistic for most other companies and most other businesses. It's just not. In fact, most other businesses have to worry very much about like, we can only lose so much money. We can only afford so much. And I'm not saying that companies like Sony are like, oh my God, they're in the fucking red. No, but these things can happen much quicker than people realize. One of the most difficult things, based off of what I've seen about being a CEO, is understanding market fluctuations and realizing that you can't really be best friends with your consumer base. You can't. Like there has to be a balance. And sometimes that balance it leans more so on the side of the company, but other times it leans more so on the side of the consumer, but oftentimes it just lands, it doesn't go too much to one side or the other. Most of the time it's right there in the middle where it's like the consumer is happy and fine and maybe not happy, but okay with it, right? Like this is the, furthest we can go. And this is as far as we can take it for our business and our bottom line. Don't get me wrong. A lot of companies have tried to take advantage of this. And this is why we have to question. I would like to know, Sony, how much are you paying for your PlayStation Plus games? You're saying that you need to increase the price of PlayStation Plus because, oh, well, we need to continue to deliver the same quality. Okay, well, can you divulge? Can you let us know, like, if that's how much does it cost for you to get these monthly games? What about the monthly games for PlayStation Plus Extra? Is it really that much? And it might be. Like, that's the crazy thing that people don't consider is it fucking might be. I think people still fail to realize that every month with these games that go in and out of these gaming services, money is being paid. Money is being paid. And yeah, it's just crazy to me, man. It's crazy to see how rapidly everybody's trying to jump in on one thing and they're not considering, like, well, there are a lot of pros to it, but what are the cons? And people kind of walk around like there are no cons. There is no downside. Like, you're wrong. Like, you're just like, that's not true with anything. There's always a negative. There's a push and there's a pull. In the case of, oh, you like $70 AAA high-end games, right? Oh, yeah, we love that. What's the con to it? I'll tell you what the con is. You got to fucking wait a long-ass time. You ready to wait 5 years for a new game? Who the fuck wants to wait 5 years for a new game? No one does, but that's the reality. You want that type of experience, that's how long it takes. People have proven they're willing to pay for it, they're willing to support it, and think about what people often complain about with these AAA games. They don't want to wait for it. So there is always a con, man. There's always a con. Doolin Jones, dude, thank you so much, man. This looks like it was I don't know what this converts to dollar-wise, but it basically looks like a $50 super chat on my end. So Doolin, thank you so much for that, man. That's very, very kind of you. You're saying, MBG, will you get PlayStation Portal? I can play more games more often, even complete them quicker, more due to convenience. The price is reasonable and price point that most can buy into. I'm so happy this device exists. I always wanted a dedicated remote play device for PlayStation. I did pre-order it, yeah. I can't say that my hype level for PlayStation Portal is on the same level as you. Like, I don't feel that excited about it, but it interests me enough to where it's like, a part of me buying it is simply because, I don't know, man. I wasn't really fully there for the handhelds that Sony created. Like, I was part of it to a degree, not the Vita, but the PSP I was part of for a little while. And I never really like fully appreciated them for what they were. And I don't know, a part of me with the PlayStation Portal, it's not that. Like, I know the PlayStation Portal is not that, but I'm just kind of interested to have this device that is a DualSense with a screen on it and see, like, how's it work? More than anything, dude, I want to know how this thing functions outside the home. That's what I want to know. I fully expect it to work pretty well, and like you're saying, you're going to be able to play more games more often. I don't know if that'll change for me, but more than anything, I just want to know, like, how practical is it for me to take this thing outside of my home, and as long as I'm anywhere where there's an internet connection, a decent internet connection, can I play and enjoy my game? That's what I want to know. Like, does it work well, or is it like horrible? Is it a piece of junk that doesn't work? That's what I would like to know. So yeah, I am going to get the PlayStation Portal, and it's funny, man, because I mean, you're expressing your passion and excitement here for this device. I'm telling you, man, I've seen more people than you would think saying that they are excited for this device. And it tells me that there is a bigger audience for this than I think a lot of people might realize. I'm not saying it's huge, but it's there, man. And I think Sony recognizes that. I think that's why they made this device. People always say, like, what is the point of this device? Why did Sony make this? What's the point? I think this is the point, is that even if it's only like 2% of the entire PlayStation audience, it's there and they're willing to pay for it, and they're happy to do so because they want something like that. I mean, I have seen people express like, oh, well, why are they putting resources and whatnot into it? But it's like, well, listen, even if you're somebody who's like, I wish we could get a traditional handheld, I would say maybe looking at the glass half full here, it could be a test bed, right? Like this could be Sony kind of testing the waters and seeing if they can start to slowly re-enter the handheld. Because I doubt the PlayStation Portal is where it ends, dude. I do. I doubt that this is the only handheld device that Sony makes. And in fact, if you read their blog post, they even kind of, the way they worded it, it even almost kind of sounded like this is just their first device, right? So they might end up doing a new dedicated handheld at some point, and this could just be kind of the early phase, the test bed, if you will, and just kind of seeing like how are people going to react to it. We'll see. We'll see. But I appreciate the super chat, man. Again, it's very, very generous of you, and I appreciate you supporting the channel, man. And yeah, you'll have to let me know when you get that PlayStation Portal how it works out for you, dude. Omen86, you're saying the Gears of War franchise wasn't even made by Xbox. It was made by Epic Games. Halo was Bungie. Xbox is an empty shell. Money keeps them floating. Well, there's no doubt, Omen, that Xbox... Listen, I've been following this stuff long enough to know that it comes in waves. One day, it's the cool thing to hate Xbox. The next day, it's the cool thing to hate PlayStation. And then after that, it's cool to hate Xbox. Like, the people who are like really high up on Xbox right now, that's fine. Just be ready. Be ready, because that day is it's gonna come back around. I get annoyed even talking about this because people, they don't want to acknowledge it, but it's fucking clear as day, dude. It's like it could not be more obvious. Like the day's gonna come where people turn on Xbox again, and suddenly, oh man, like, why is everybody hating on Xbox? Like, I don't know what to tell you, man. That's just how it goes. That's how it fucking goes. It's the pendulum swinging back and forth. So you're saying Xbox is like a shell. Well, man, one thing Xbox has proven to be good at, and I'm not saying this as in this is good or this is bad, but it is just the truth. They've proven they're very good at spending money and buying things. And sometimes that's a good thing. Like in the case of, I mean, you mentioned Gears of War. It's true. They didn't make Gears of War, but they were smart enough to realize that this is something we can leverage. And they sure did, right? And even on the Sony side of things, we acknowledge that there are critical moments where Sony and Microsoft acknowledge, like, we have to spend this money, but this can really benefit our platform and make our player base happy. And it does. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think what you're really just trying to point out, Omen, is that Xbox over the years, and this is just true, man, they have struggled to really hit their stride in terms of like being a true creative powerhouse. And I would say that when you think about Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, the reason why people don't hold Microsoft in the same regard as like Nintendo and Sony, that's why. That's why. It's because they have proven that they are good at, knowing what franchises to maybe buy into at certain times, and obviously knowing how to buy publishers and stuff like that, and building an ecosystem, building their subscription, all that stuff. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with any of that. Well, I mean, there could be, again, some pitfalls, but it's just the creativity side of it, man. Even when they tried creating their own studio in the initiative, like it was a nightmare at first. But here's the thing, man. We just went over an interview with Sean Layden, and Sean Layden himself admitted that in 1994, Sony knew that they couldn't just go out and make all the games themselves. He literally said they didn't know how. It is a learning process. And I think it's safe to say that Sony definitely learned how to do it, right? They definitely learned how to do it. And I think that, if anything, this is what Microsoft gets shit for. And this is why I'm not going to just sit here and say, yeah, you guys are fucking right, man. You guys are right. Because you know what? In my opinion, it's not necessarily about what's right or wrong. And that's why I'm not going to say you're wrong either. I don't know that it's necessarily a morality thing at this point. But for me, it's like, I don't see what Microsoft has truly brought to the table from the creative side. I don't. And maybe people will mention things like, well, look at what they did with the online multiplayer. And it's like, okay, like in terms of certain innovations in this space, yeah, I could give Microsoft that credit, no problem. It's like, oh, dude, they really revolutionized things with multiplayer gaming. Yeah, and that's great. And this is where I think Microsoft has proven over the years they do belong in this industry because they've done enough in certain areas. But I'm talking about from the studio, the game creation standpoint. I just don't understand. I mean, I can understand. To me, it just seems like it's gotten to a point where people have just decided to say, you know what? All right, Microsoft tried, and I'll give them that. I will. Like, they actually really fucking tried at certain points throughout their 20 plus year history in this industry to do it themselves. They have. And I think that people have just kind of gotten to a point where it's like, all right, look, this is how they're going to do it. And it's fine. It's fine. Like, they're not going to be able to do it any other way. It's like when people were using the argument, not to like rehash it, but people kept saying like they need Activision Blizzard. This was one of the arguments that I faced multiple times where people were like, dude, they actually need them. Like, don't you understand? They're not trying to ruin the industry. They're not trying to take over. Like, they can barely hang on, and they need Activision Blizzard. And this is why so many PlayStation fans were fucking going in hard during these trials, because Microsoft themselves were saying that. They were straight up saying, like, we can't make our own games, man. We don't have enough of our own games that are good enough to sell people on Game Pass. They were saying this shit. So it's like, there's no more argument to be made. There isn't. Microsoft came out and they flat out said, we can't do it ourselves. So we have to buy it to make it work. And that's what we're going to do. And everybody collectively said, okay. And even now I'm saying, okay. Because, okay, go do your thing. Let's see what happens. But look, man, I'll be real with everybody right now. The only reason I'm even talking about Microsoft right now is because it's brought up in super chats, and it's brought up in my chat. The reality is I don't care about Xbox anymore. I don't. And I don't say that in like a fuck Xbox, I'm done. No. I was there years ago. I've already went through the whole thing. It's just, I genuinely am not interested because they're just, I don't care anymore, man. Like, if they can wow me with something like State of Decay 3, yeah, I'll go play it. Sure. That sounds great. I like State of Decay 1 and 2. They were fun. Maybe Hellblade 2. But outside of that, like, in the same way that I don't care about Nintendo and I don't have a problem with Nintendo, I've accepted Nintendo for who they are, man, and what they do. And I've reached that point with Microsoft where it's like, I now accept them for who they are, and this is what they do. And most of it, if like 95% of it to 99% of it, just isn't for me. And that's it, man. I've harped on long enough with my tangents, but it is what it is, man. It's like people who have said, I still see now many people they have this to say about Sony and this to say about PlayStation. It's like, I get it, but I do eventually have to ask the question, just like people are going to ask me, like, but why are you focused on it? And that's why, like, I'm not blaming you guys. I know it sounds like it's fine. Like, you guys are allowed to talk about anything you want. You can super chat me anything you want. You can say anything about Xbox, and I get it. Like, you bring that to the table. But it's just that I'm just running out of steam, truly even bringing Microsoft up, because I just don't know what else to say about them other than this is what they are. Like, they did it. They literally did it, man. For better or for worse. Whether it's right, whether it's wrong. Whether it's the greatest thing they ever did or the worst thing they ever did. They fucking bought Bethesda and made Starfield exclusive, dude. Fucking Starfield. And it's out now. And people are having console wars over Starfield. They did it, dude. Like, we went from Halo Infinite is going to be the return of Halo to actually never mind, we're going to buy Starfield and that's our game. And people have said, like, we're okay with that. And that's where it's like, all right, why would I fight with that? It's like people who want to fight with me about, I said, hey, I like Spider-Man 2. There are people right now that are like, this is stupid. Sony's obsessed with sequels. It's all about big franchises. It's just going to be a movie game. And they fucking don't want anything to do with Spider-Man. It's like, but I think me and many other people have made it clear, like, dude, we're okay with it, man. Like, this is what we like. We're happy with this. So it's like, at that point, the only thing that's left for that person to do is just say, okay, I guess I'll go do my thing now. Like, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure I'll get clipped for some of the shit I said here, but something I do hope that they also clip is, believe me when I tell you, like, dude, I don't have anything against Xbox at this point, man. I got nothing left to really say about them. I mean, they're doing their thing. And if their player base is happy, then, hey, I'm happy for them. Hen, you're saying MBG, for every Xbox game you're not interested in, though, you're going to play a cartoony Sony Live Service game. Well, that remains to be seen, dude. That remains to be seen, because I'm not saying I'm always good for a laugh. Well, hey, man, whatever keeps you entertained, I guess. Look, I've never said that I'm going to play all of Sony's live service games. I will, depending on how they roll out. Like, let me give you an example. This Horizon multiplayer game, if they come out and they're like, they show a Genshin Impact looking Horizon multiplayer game, I'm automatically going to be skeptical. And if they're like, we want $70 for this, I will have to really pay close attention to the gameplay they show, because that's going to be a tough sell for me. It is. Like, the Horizon series is not like at the top for me in terms of my excitement for it. I still like it a lot, but a Genshin Impact looking Horizon game, it for me is not an automatic day one buy. It's just not. If it's free to play, I already own a PS5. I play on it every day. Yeah, I'll download it. I'll give it a shot. What's there to lose, right? And if I hate it, I'll uninstall it. Be like, okay, I'm just going to continue about my business. Same thing with Sony London's game. Like, Sony London's game clearly looks like it's going to have a very cartoon-like aesthetic, and I'm not trying to be overly judgmental and be like, oh, it's going to be shit just because of how it looks. And I'm not trying to be that way towards Xbox games either, but it's just, I watched the Xbox showcase, and I said during that showcase, I was like, dude, one of two things is going to happen. When this showcase is over, I'm either going to walk away saying, holy shit, I need to go buy an Xbox now, because I got to go buy an Xbox for these games, or I'm going to walk away just being like, well, I guess I'm done here for now, for a long time, maybe, And that's what happened, dude. Even Hellblade 2, they showed a fucking cutscene, dude. And it looks phenomenal. Like, dude, Hellblade 2 looks phenomenal. They showed a cutscene, which is ironic because people bitch at Sony all the time for having cutscene, for being like fucking movie games. And it's like, I think it looks great, but I have to just sit back and wait to see what this game ends up being like, because I don't know. And maybe there's a good chance, I'd say there's a good chance I will maybe go play this game on Xbox or on my PC or something. Subscribe to Game Pass. Give it a shot, see if it really hits me the same way the first game did. And if so, great. There's an Xbox game I played and enjoyed. But I just mean, generally speaking, you see the way Xbox and Sony are doing things, even you can agree with what I'm about to say. It's not just about dipping your toe in the water anymore. It's not. I mean, maybe for Sony, it might become more that way if they make their multiplayer games free to play. But that more than anything these days, it's about, we want you to invest. Like, we want you to invest in this ecosystem. We want you to be in this ecosystem. We want you to be attached to it. And all I'm trying to say is that Microsoft has done literally nothing to get me attached to their ecosystem. And I'm not here to bitch and moan and say, because they didn't do A, B, C, and D. Because they didn't do A, B, and C, and D, they're the worst, and I hate them. Maybe it used to be that way, But I've just kind of woken up at some point and realized that, yeah, they're not going to do A, B, C, and D the way I want them to. They're going to do it how they want. And there's plenty of people out there saying, yeah, we like it this way. It's like, okay, that's fine, man. Pig Roach, you're saying internet is going to lose its mind when the Elder Scrolls 6 drops. Yeah, and you're right about that. You're right about that. And that's where it's like, there you go. I mean, the Elder Scrolls 6 is very, very far away, but it's gonna happen. And when it does happen, this is where you see, like, when Microsoft bought Bethesda, it's a long-term investment play. This is the difference between striking a timed exclusivity with Starfield and we bought Bethesda. With buying Bethesda, we get Starfield exclusive, and then eventually, even if it's a decade from now, when the Elder Scrolls 6 comes out and is trying to blow everybody away, we can come out and say, and PlayStation won't get it, and Nintendo won't get it, because it's Microsoft, and it's for people who are in Microsoft, in our domain. And yeah, that's just the way it's going to be. And this is why I'm saying, like, when you consider that, and you consider they also are going to have Activision, this is why I say, even though I don't want Sony to buy a publisher, I don't know, man. Sony might end up feeling like when they have to compete with these other big hitters that are coming down the line eventually, they might have to do something, right? What that is, I don't know. Maybe more timed exclusives. Maybe, who knows? Maybe by the time Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, there'll be some other Baldur's Gate 3-esque type game, and Sony will be like, yo, we struck an exclusive deal with them, so we have something. Because think about that for just a second. Think about how much different the conversation would be surrounding Starfield right now if a year ago Sony announced we struck an exclusivity deal with Larian for Baldur's Gate 3, and it's potentially going to be either a timed exclusive or a permanent exclusive. If they did that, the conversation right now would simply be, wow, Sony has the better game, like, in terms of Metacritic review scores, right? Like, they had the better game. That would be that's not the conversation, but I'm just saying that is the type of stuff Sony could try to actively seek out more aggressively, knowing that, hey, yeah, Starfield is here now, and eventually Bethesda is going to release the Elder Scrolls 6, and when they do, you're going to have to contend with that. So figure out what you're going to do, man. New Soul 9. You got a couple super chats here. I'll just read all yours back to back. You're saying, MBG, this is a conspiracy theory I have. Microsoft probably passed on making Spider-Man because they were under the impression it was going to come to their platform. Spider-Man 2018 was the first ever Spider-Man game to be a full-blown exclusive. All the other entries were multi-plat, if I'm not mistaken. And then you say here, you're replying to, I think, Space Gambler Jr., saying Microsoft also probably thought Marvel would make sure Spider-Man would have been multi-platform. However, decided to make it. Whoever decided to make it, they probably didn't expect Marvel to agree on full-blown exclusivity, since they are all about profit when it comes to their video game IP. They probably learned their lesson now. I mean, that is, I will say, it's a possibility. Yeah, I mean, we do have to keep in mind that the biggest difference during that time, that would have been during the middle of the PS4 and Xbox One life cycle. The biggest difference between Sony and Microsoft is the leverage that they can have in these type of negotiations with their install base. At that time, Sony can basically turn to Disney and say, hey, like, we're on track to break records with the PS4, and our install base is blowing up, and we're completely outselling the competition. So if Sony were to bring to the table, we want to talk about exclusivity, Disney, and that might have been exactly what happened. Disney was like, you know what? You guys are doing big numbers. Maybe we'll consider it. And they did, clearly. With Microsoft, for all we know, maybe Microsoft did decide, like, we want to try. Maybe they did want to pursue this, but it was under and I forget if this came out. I remember there's a whole detailed report on it, and maybe this was something that was confirmed or denied. You can let me know. But maybe they did come out and they say, like, we only want to do it if we can make it exclusive. But Disney's like, well, you guys look like you're not selling that great, and we would really just prefer to keep it multi-platform. I don't know. I mean, it's a possibility, man. But if anything, if your theory is true, which there's no way to know if it is or not truly, like, we don't know all these details that go on behind the scenes. If it is true, it would also serve to explain why Microsoft just pulled the trigger and decided we're going to buy publishers, because as they continue to struggle to sell enough consoles as their competition, they're also going to struggle to gain more exclusivity. And I just want to actually take this moment to say this is also another reason why I don't have a problem with Sony or Microsoft pursuing acquisitions the way they are, because it's like, it is true that for as difficult as it became for Microsoft to sell consoles, it too became just as difficult for them to convince video game publishers and studios, like, hey, you want to strike an exclusivity deal with us, right? And they're like, well, we're going to ask for double the amount. We're going to ask for double the amount. We're going to ask for an absurd amount of money, an unreasonable amount of money, because you don't have the leverage. You don't have the install base. That's how it goes, man. And this is why it's like, at the end of the day, it is true that Microsoft kind of was backed into a corner to an extent where their only option is, well, I guess we just gotta buy and buy big. So it's interesting. It's interesting to think about this. All right, let me see. We got. Oh, sorry, New Soul 9. You got another one here, man. You're saying. Oh wait, no. I read. I just forgot to heart it. And then we got. Where are we here? Alex Mercer, the prototype. You're saying here, I'm playing on the PlayStation Edition Backbone 1. Honestly, I don't think I need a Portal. Cheaper and can play my digital Xbox games on it too. I mean, yeah, dude, that there are people who have purchased this Backbone, right? And it's funny because people are like, oh, well, who cares about the Portal when you can just use your phone? But I mean, yeah, the Backbone has been out for a little while, and I've heard good things about it. So if you're happy with that, man, and it's doing what you need to do, then yeah, really there would be no reason for you to get the Portal. So you can play your digital X. Yeah, that's I didn't think about that either. You can play your digital Xbox games on it too. Not bad. Not bad. Let me see here. We got Omen86. You're saying, okay, I won't bring it up. I won't bring up Xbox again. Omen's like, oops. Don't sleep on Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. It will sell like crazy. It's a bigger IP than most people realize. Yeah, I've seen that, man. I've been seeing people going off on that game. Excited. And no, I'm not blaming you, Omen. I get it, dude. It's hard not to for a lot of people, because it is just part of it is in a way always tethered to the conversation, right? When a game like Starfield launches exclusively for Xbox, people are going to talk about it, and it's going to make its way to the channel, and that's fine. I'm not saying like nobody, you can't use the word Xbox, you can't talk about Xbox. It's not that. It's just sometimes I feel some of the energy that you guys bring to the table, and I think it influences me a little bit. But it's because it kind of brings me back to like a couple years ago. It brings me back to a couple years ago with the way I felt towards the brand and towards the platform, because there was a lot of passion there for Xbox for a while. There was. I was heavily invested, and I really had this kind of mindset where I'm like, they're gonna turn this ship around, dude. Like, I know they are. And granted, they did. They just did. They did it in a way that I would have never thought of in a million years. I don't think anybody would have guessed that that's how they would have turned the ship around. But it kind of brings me back to that type of mindset that I was in. But truthfully, I'm not there anymore with it, man. It's I've thought about, just for the sake of making my life easier, it would make my life easier, but it would also be very annoying. I've thought about, maybe just to get people to realize like I'm just kind of done with this whole thing in terms of like the whole console wars and whatnot, is I'm just going to buy an Xbox. I'm going to subscribe to Game Pass, and I'm just on occasion just going to play games on Xbox and talk about them and just say, hey, like, this is fine. But I realize like that would be very forced because I don't actually want to do any of that. And I could easily do something like that to justify, be like, see, I'm an Xbox player. I play Xbox too, so I can criticize it and I can say this. And it's like, I just don't have a desire to do much of anything anymore, even looking at Xbox. Because it's like I said, man, like I'm out here reading an interview with Phil Spencer where he's like, yeah, maybe Elder Scrolls 6 won't be exclusive. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm good, man. Like I'm done. I'm out. I can't believe like this is even a thing being said right now. Um, I'm good. I'm good. So, and I just wanted to say, I just also wanted to bring this up too. This feels like a good time to kind of bow out. Also, because I did see recently that I don't think it was Phil Spencer, but it was somebody ahead of Microsoft. They recently said that the launch of Starfield is basically like the beginning of their new release schedule, I guess, where they're going to have a new game like every quarter or something. And, it's it'll be interesting. I will say, even though I'm not interested in Xbox, I know I'm not gonna be able to avoid it entirely. It's gonna be interesting to see over the next year or so, now that Starfield's out, like, okay, like, is there truth to that? Are they gonna hit that release? Because I will tell you this. Somebody said earlier, I forget who it was, they were like, oh, was the wind taken out of Xbox's sales? I think Sony's gonna have a lot to say, at least with Spider-Man, and that is definitely going to slow down Xbox's momentum. But the thing that will kill Xbox's momentum, truthfully, because even I could say, like, yeah, they have a ton of momentum. The thing that will kill it is if they fail to live up to that. If this comes off as another broken promise where it's like, oh, wait till next E3 and, this was a bad year and maybe next year we'll get it going. Now it's like the rubber has to hit the road, right? Where 2024, Starfield's a great start. 2024, you show that consistency. You release quality games all throughout the year. You're good. You're golden. Honestly, at that point, yeah, Xbox is going to have sustained momentum. I don't know that it'll impact PlayStation that much. It really depends, but have another good showcase at some point, yeah, I think it'll be fine. Have they announced anything for 2024? If I'm not mistaken, they have. I think Hellblade is scheduled for 2024. I think what's the other game? I'm drawing a blank on it. It's from Obsidian. Avowed, yeah. Avowed is scheduled for 2024. They have, I don't know if that game, yeah, you guys, it was like, Avowed! Stalker 2. I think they have another one, but I'm drawing a blank on it. Call of Duty, yeah, possibly Call of Duty, which is so funny to think. That is so crazy. Yeah, they might have, I think they have Call of Duty scheduled for next year. You hope Sony unveils the PS5 Pro at the end of this year? No, I don't think it's going to happen at the end of this year, man. Towerborn. Okay, yeah, that may have been the one I was forgetting to mention. So yeah, they have a good lineup, dude. Like in terms of just having quite a few games listed there. So it'll just be a matter of, like I said, can they deliver these games on time and will they hit that quality mark that will leave people happy and satisfied? And I'll tell you right now, if they don't, I don't plan on. I do not plan on jumping in or jumping on the bandwagon because I was there. I did that with Redfall, and the Redfall was before the Xbox showcase, so it's like, okay, maybe I could justify it in that way. Oh yeah, Flight Simulator 2024. Damn, dude, yeah, they got a lot. They do have a big lineup. So I think that, yeah, again, if they're serious about what they're saying, and it's like, yeah, we got our games lined up and ready to go, man. The only game I think I may end up being judgmental towards is Hellblade, but I do anticipate Hellblade's going to be very good. That's my expectation. So, and yeah, I'm sure Avowed will be fine. Obsidian has a good track record, but I've never been into sitting games, you know? So, you're saying no one cares about Flight Sim. You know what's funny is I think that's actually one of the more popular games, believe it or not. I could be wrong about that. Wolverine would be perfect for the PS5 Pro launch. I agree. 100%, dude. Doolin Jones, again, with a 20 super chat, man. Thank you. You're saying the DualSense for me is a game changer for the PlayStation Portal, and for it to be on remote play is a game changer. Again, a crucial part of the PlayStation Portal. This is the most important part for me, and why I'm buying one day one. It makes sense, dude, because it's. I mean, the DualSense is my favorite controller. I was skeptical when the DualSense first was being talked about. I remember like everybody was saying that we were getting like impressions on the haptic feedback and whatnot. And I was like, okay, yeah, it sounds awesome. I hope it lives up to that. And I was also a little bit worried. The DualSense looks so different than the DualShock 4. And I really like the DualShock 4. The DualShock 4 is great ergonomic controller. And I was like, damn, this DualSense is so much bigger. I'm a little bit nervous. Like, is it gonna, is it gonna feel worse or, as good? And I was pleasantly surprised that not only does the DualSense actually feel better in the hands, in my opinion, than the DualShock 4, but yeah, the features of the DualSense were the real deal. And that's why I do think it's so funny that whoever designed the PlayStation Portal are like, what if we just literally cut a DualSense in half? And I'm like, yeah, go like that. That to me is it looks a little silly, I think, to some people. It definitely does not look sleek. But that form factor, right? Just knowing that when you hold this thing, you are holding a DualSense. And you get all the DualSense features. I do think for people who are interested in the Portal, again, you're not the only person I've seen say that that's why they're gravitating towards it. So I appreciate it, man. Clearly, Doolin's very excited, man. Very excited for the PlayStation Portal. He's hyped. Let's see here. Rashdan V2, you're saying people mad at Starfield pronouns are now saying Miles Morales is woke trash and race swapping. Yeah, I don't know. I think, dude, people are getting... One day, I don't know when this day will come, but one day people are going to realize that when you get, and I still make this mistake myself, so maybe we'll never realize it. But when you take a step back and you look at it, especially when you're looking at it from the outside, one day people are going to wake up and they're going to realize that the moment you decide to express your frustration with something, I'm upset with it, especially in a very emotional way, you just basically secured that it's going to happen more, no matter what it is. And I don't know when people are going to wake up and realize that. It's like all the people who still spend all their time like complaining about like Disney and it's like funny because it's like that one woman, what's her name? Rachel Zegler, is that her name? She's like she's the woman, the actress that's playing Snow White in the live action version of Snow White. And there's so many people like attacking her. Don't get me wrong, like I've come across some of the things she said. It's like, wow, yeah, you're quite the character. And I just kind of walk away thinking like that's a dumb thing to say. That's a bad way to promote your movie. But you know what's crazy to me is like I don't give a single flying fuck about Snow White. Never have. Never will. And something tells me that half the people who are spending all of this time like just pouncing on this, I get it. I get it. Believe me, I've heard some of the stuff too. It's like I do. But it becomes so clear that like you guys don't care about Snow White this much. There's just no way. there's no conceivable way you guys actually care about the Snow White intellectual property this much. And that's what bothers me, because it's like there's a way to send a message and say what you have to say. And then there's just, wow, okay, this is totally about something else and it has nothing to do with Snow White. And I get that. Like maybe that's the whole point, but that's where I kind of draw the line, where it does remind me about The Last of Us Part 2, where in The Last of Us Part 2, like there were many things that I was like, yeah, I'm not a fan of what they're doing here. And I wanted to have that conversation, but there were just so many people that didn't give a single fuck about The Last of Us. They didn't care about gaming, and they're just out here screaming and roaring and just going ballistic. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, this is over. There's no good conversation that's going to come from this. And it's just really annoying. Because the only conversations I actually wanted to have about The Last of Us Part 2 were with people who actually cared about the IP. And I did. To be fair, there were some I've had, and those were the enjoyable ones. Those were the ones that actually made the conversations interesting, where it wasn't just like, let's inject all of these different things into it that really, for most of us, it's not about that. For most of us, it's about like the characters, the game, the studio that made it, the implications this will have on, the future of the series and whatnot. And it's like so many people weren't willing to have those conversations. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that when you become that person that's like, oh man, like this person on this, they did this with my IP or my beloved thing, and I when you give that emotional response, not once but twice, three times, over and over again, the people on the other side take that as a challenge. Like, why do you think it's not stopping and it's not ending? It's because a hate view is a fucking hate view is a hate view is a view is a view is a view. It is attention. You are giving it the attention it needs to live. And it's so ironic because a lot of times these, the points that these people try to make is it's like, no one likes this. Everybody hates this. And yet look at how much attention you're giving it. Look at how many views and look at how much publicity this just got. And don't get me wrong, to some extent, it is true. It is true. We see that financially there are things that are beginning to fail. So there may be something to it. There may be, but I just think it gets so extreme sometimes. Because I saw some of the stuff going around about, Starfield and the pronouns and whatnot. It's like, yeah, okay, I'm pretty much indifferent to it. Like, I don't fucking care. I mean, I don't care about the game at all. But I'll tell you right now, like, if I was excited to play that game, that's not gonna fucking stop me. Like, you may as well put a fucking clown wig on me, legit, if I decide to say that I was really excited to play this game, but because of this one hyper specific thing, I'm out. Like, come on. Is it really all fucking that? And don't get me wrong, if you're somebody who says, yeah, to me it is all that, and I'm not going to play the game, well, then good for you. You made your statement. You said you're not getting my money, I'm not playing this game, and that's good. Now move on. Don't give it any more attention, because you're only helping it at that point. Let the people who want to embrace that embrace it. I don't know. It's a tough thing, man. Sometimes I think it ultimately just comes down to we all have too much time on our hands. You ever think that sometimes? Sometimes I do get that feeling, man. I do just sometimes think it comes down to we all just might have a little bit too much time on our hands. Or we spend too much of our time in these made up circles that don't really exist anywhere except the internet. I don't know, man. Do you think they can do cloud on the Portal device? I do. I don't see why they couldn't. We've talked about that. And so you're saying I don't understand why inclusion bothers a lot of gamers. That says a lot about who you are. You know what I think it is, man? I think it's because it's like what you just said. like, to me, it sounds totally innocent, and I think most of the time it is. I do. I think most of the time people want to be more inclusive, and it's just a good thing. And like 99% of people are okay with that. Like, yeah, let's be more inclusive. What's wrong with that? But I think where the problem lies, and this is just like with anything else, like nothing is perfect. There's always something lurking, right? I think that there are certain people where it's like they basically are saying, yeah, we want to be inclusive. But what they're actually doing is not being inclusive. They're doing something way different than that. And it's like blatantly obvious that this is not just about inclusivity. But at the same time, again, man, it's two sides of the same fucking coin. The same thing can be said for the other side. It's just extremism, man. That's what it is. You always have to keep in mind that the most extreme people are the loudest and they garner the most attention. And keep in mind, when I say the loudest, I don't literally mean loud. Sometimes that's what, like, literally screaming and whatnot. But I mean, loud can almost be a word used to describe having the most intense opinions, the most conviction. Just, you know what I don't like? I don't like somebody who's closed-minded. I don't like, I can admire people who have a certain conviction towards something, but I don't admire people who take that to where it's like, and I see nothing else. I'm not even willing to see anything else. I'm not even willing to entertain anything else. I don't like that because it's like, how do you expect to ever grow like beyond anything with that mindset? And as I get older, I do find, and I think that age plays a role in this, where like the older you get, it can be more difficult to do that. It can be more difficult to be open-minded. And I think people take it too far, right? Where people make it seem like the only way you can exist is you got to be not just open-minded to everything, but you have to accept everything. Like, I don't like that either. Because at that point, you're basically forcing things on people. Like, people don't have to accept everything. People can have their reasons for not wanting to accept something. I just think that people just need to calm the fuck down, dude, and just be willing to be okay where it's like, hey, I want to live this way and I'm okay with it. And I got my group of people here and we're okay with it and we're not hurting anybody. And you got your way of living over there and you want to live a certain way and you guys are all cool with that and you're not hurting anybody. Let's just agree to disagree and we'll do our own thing. What the fuck is so hard about that? Turns out everything. Apparently it's one of the most difficult challenges to the human race is being able to just let people live how they want to live as long as they're not hurting people. And maybe that's where the problem lies, man, is that, like I always say, just takes one bad apple, right? You could have two groups of people that are shaking hands and there's peace and they're like, hey, man, we're just going to allow each other to live how we want to live. And it just takes one person decides to throw the first stone, you know? And it's all fucking downhill from there. I guess that's humanity kind of summed up, isn't it? Sorry. Saying people just take things too personally. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's truth to that. So I'll say one last thing. I'm going to read these super chats. One of the things that I have, dude, this gnat went in my fucking coffee, bro. I swear, they're like multiplying, man. Are you guys seeing these gnats? Fucking A. Sorry. They're so, oh my God, I'm going to snap, man. I got to get like some kind of gnat trap or something. They're seriously getting to a point where they're distracting my workflow here with the stream. Try to have a serious conversation here. I'll say this last thing, and it's based off of some experience. So what I've learned about people, human behavior, talking about human psychology, there's something that everybody wants. And even if you're a person who says, I don't want this, you're going to eventually find that you're a liar. Because at one point, like eventually you're going to do something that if you really think about it, it's going to be revealed that actually you do want this, don't you? And it's okay. It's because we are kind of born into the world needing this, and that is attention. Every single person wants attention. That is the common denominator. And what I've learned is that if you start to go through life, realize like the only people who are able to overcome that are people who acknowledge that, you know what? I think I do want some kind of attention. But it's that awareness. It's the awareness of it in saying that, hey, I realize I want some attention, but do I need that attention? Do I need it? And even if I do need it, what am I willing to do to get it? And that is the difference maker. No one doesn't there isn't a person alive that doesn't want somewhere in there being some kind of attention. But it is truly the difference. The difference maker is when a person can acknowledge that and what they choose to do with that. And I'm telling you, man, if you look around on the internet, or not even just the internet, but just in general, you look at the way people behave, the way they conduct themselves, and you start to realize people do some interesting things for attention. They do. And, we can learn from that in a sense. It takes one gnat. Yeah. We can learn from that. And I think we also have this, because we all want attention, we all want to give attention as well. Think about that. It's almost like an on-off switch, right? Or like it's a red light, green light type thing where we all want attention. And if there's a moment where we don't want attention, we want to give attention to something or someone. And that is just the way it works, man. Like we're either internalizing or we're externalizing. And I guess I'm just saying all this because it's like, try to just be more aware of when you're doing that and why you're doing it. And especially when you're externalizing and you're choosing to give attention, think about who you're giving the attention to. And if you are somebody who is seeking attention, just think about in what way are you going about seeking the attention? And who are you getting the attention of? These are just important questions that I think everybody should ask themselves. And maybe to some people it's very obvious, but to some people you'd be surprised. They don't even give it a second thought. Some people are just operating totally subconsciously. And that's concerning. Stop it. Get some help. All right, Pig Roach. I'm gonna end that conversation there. Pig Roach says Xbox has a lot of games in 2024. They do, Pig Roach. You're correct about that. I'd say 2024 is one of the better looking years that Xbox has probably ever had, assuming that none of those games get delayed. And then we have Planet Schlorpian. Thank you, man. You're saying playing No Man's Sky this weekend. Truly amazing how far the game has come in 7 years. It has customizable difficulty settings. I've been seeing that. Yeah, I've been seeing that some people are going to No Man's Sky. I think that Starfield releasing has actually caused a little bit of a resurgence for No Man's Sky. And again, I don't think it's enough for me to want to dive back in. But nonetheless, man, it's interesting to see. And I'll never forget the launch of No Man's Sky, dude. I will never forget how I don't think I've ever seen so much hate directed towards a single game developer with Sean Murray. It was bad. And, people playing the clips of him like just lying and stuff. But at the same time, dude, redemption is a thing. And I think Sean Murray and his studio, they definitely redeemed themselves. And that does happen. Sometimes it doesn't, but other times it does. So yeah, it's cool to see how far the game has come, man. We have Omen again. Thank you for the chat, bud. You're saying Grand Blue Fantasy Relink will sell more copies than Starfield. That might sound ridiculous, but just watch. All this hype for nothing. Money talks. Yeah, dude, they said 6 million players, and it's like, I don't know. I'm telling you, man, I want to give it a little bit more time. I want to see if Microsoft announces sales for Starfield. I'd be surprised if they didn't, because I think it's sold really well. But this Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, I'll have to look deeper into this, man. Because, I've been seeing people kind of hype this up. It's not on my radar. I will say it's not on my radar, so I don't know what to think of it. I'll have to look at it closer. By the way, guys, we still have over 400 people here hanging out with me. Appreciate it. I mean, God knows what we're even talking about at this point, but thank you for hanging out with me and showing support. Take a second out of your time, hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it. Give this stream a thumbs up. It helps out tremendously. And let me see. Planet Schlurping again, you're saying some people mistake delusions for opinions. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. There's a lot of delusion out there today. You know, mental illness is a real thing. And with that can come a lot of delusion. And delusion is... The scary thing about delusions, people who are, I mean, truly delusional, is that they don't know. And that's scary. So it's not only like, do you have to be self-aware? You almost have to be like aware for them. You know? It's concerning. So, yeah, man. Got to be smart. Got to be aware. Awareness is key. And Doolin Jones, again, he says, here's the funny thing about the console war, PlayStation versus Xbox. It's like WWE versus AEW, LOL. By the way, I'm not into wrestling, so I'm actually not entirely sure. You'll have to elaborate a little bit more on that, or somebody will. You're saying, by the way, The Last of Us 2 is an amazing emotional game. Yeah, I mean, as the years have gone by, I've relaxed on The Last of Us Part 2 a lot. I'm sure as many people are aware. I'm still not on board with it. I've made my peace with The Last of Us Part 2. As in, like, I just accept the game for what it is. And like I said, man, I said my piece. I gave my thoughts. I gave my opinion more than enough times. And I've moved on. No, don't worry. I'm not going on about it. I know. Like I said, I've talked about it too much, frankly. At this point, I'm just ready to see what's next. And, you know, not just from The Last of Us, but for Naughty Dog. That's where I am. That's where I, did you though? Does he know? No, I did. I did, really. I mean, you know, the only thing, it's hard to move on from it though, when it feels like it's constantly being shoved in my face. Fucking Last of Us Season 2. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that serious. I'll watch The Last of Us Season 2. And see where they take the show. What I'm most interested in with The Last of Us Season 2 is what they might change. Because I do think that there is a great opportunity, as many people have pointed out, with The Last of Us Season 2, since they're going to extend it to 3, 4, or 5 seasons, to flesh things out, do more that maybe they didn't have enough to pack it all in with one game. I'd definitely be interested in seeing what they do there, but yeah, I'm very interested to see what Naughty Dog does next, man. I think we all are, right? I mean, The Last of Us Part 2, what I will say is that it did create a bit of a rift, certainly, a shock. And I think the dust is fully settled. Well, as I say that again, Last of Us Season 2 is probably going to bring up the dust again and cloud everything up. But the dust is settled enough that I want to see this Last of Us multiplayer game. If they do The Last of Us Part 3, I'm going, like I said, man, I have my convictions, but I'm willing to be open-minded. I am. Like, I'm willing to give Naughty Dog, even though for me, I didn't really enjoy The Last of Us 2, what are you going to do? What would you do with the Part 3? I mean, the curiosity's there. Let's see, right? I'm not going to be one of these people that's like, I just can't do it. Like, I feel like Naughty Dog's too talented of a studio for me to just say, like, I'm not even remotely interested. And who knows? If they do a new IP, I might not be interested in it, depending on what they do. I don't know. If they do The Last of Us Part 3, depending on which direction they go in, maybe I won't be interested. And I'll be like, I'm good. I think I got my fill. But I'm trying to be, again, cautiously optimistic. I think that's what Exley said earlier in the stream. That's kind of where I am right now when it comes to Naughty Dog. I'm even cautiously optimistic about their multiplayer game because I'm nervous about, like, I'm nervous about why it got delayed. That's all. I'm not nervous that I think The Last of Us multiplayer will be a thing, and I think it'll be a good game. But I'm just a little bit nervous about why it ended up getting delayed because, it could be something pretty bad or it could be something just, oh, we just needed more time. That's all, to kind of get everything sorted and make sure it launches in the best possible way it can. Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. It was really Jason Schreier's report that I think made people very nervous, where it's like Bungie evaluated it and they had some concerns. And I mean, that's the whole thing. If Bungie evaluated The Last of Us multiplayer and said, yeah, you know, we're not sure about the long term viability, is this going to keep players engaged for the long run? Well, if that's true, then who's to say that Bungie isn't working with Naughty Dog right now to solve that problem? Isn't that literally why Sony bought them, to help them out? So, if anything, maybe this will work out for the best, hopefully. Again, that's me trying to be optimistic. And Omen86 again saying, the thing that gets me fired up the most are people who dismiss PSVR 2 or VR in general, while it's clear they've never even tried VR. So dumb. Yeah, I can totally understand that now that I played VR, right? Where it's like, I always tried to keep an open mind, like a very open mind with VR, because I've seen a lot of people do that. And before I played it, I was like, well, maybe they could be right, but who am I to say? I haven't played it. And now that I have played it, yeah, it is. You're right, man. It is weird to see people define something that they've never experienced. And I understand that people are going to do that no matter what at times, but yeah, that's a little off-putting. Like, I definitely, anytime I hear somebody talk about VR, like give an action, like a really firm opinion on it, I have to ask myself, like, you played VR, right? Because if not, I still expect people to have opinions, but I expect them to be much more like, oh, it just doesn't seem very good to me. It's like, oh, well, have you tried it? Like, no. Okay, well, maybe that's why, because you haven't experienced it yet. Versus somebody who said, yeah, I did play VR and it wasn't very good to me. It's like, oh, okay. Well, you played it. So there's that. But I'm right there with you, Omen. And Planet Schlorpian, again, you're saying part 2 PS5 version / director's cut seems imminent. Yeah, we've been hearing about that for some time, a Last of Us Part 2 director's cut or remaster. And I, yeah, I don't, I'm not going to have any excitement for that, frankly. I'll cover it, I'll report on it, but I don't think I'm going to play it. The only thing I hope is if they announce that, I really hope they give us an update on the multiplayer game as well. One of the reasons why I'm so desperate for this multiplayer game is because it's something new. Yeah, it's the Last of Us universe, but it's something new, right? Like we haven't gotten something new from Naughty Dog since part 2, and that was in 2020, but next year it'll be 4 years. So we'll see, man. We'll see. Before I move on, though, I want to check to see if there's any breaking news. Doesn't seem like it. I see a ton of leaks for like Nintendo right now. There's like leaks coming out everywhere for Nintendo. Yeah, I think that's it. The Game Awards tweets out previous Game of the Year winners: 2014, Dragon Age Inquisition; 2015, The Witcher 3; 2016, Overwatch; 2017, Breath of the Wild; 2018, God of War; 2019, Sekiro; 2020, The Last of Us Part 2; 2021, It Takes Two; and 2022, Elden Ring. What's your pick, so far in 2023? Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate 3, between Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield, Resident Evil 4, Final Fantasy 16. See some people thinking Spider-Man 2 is going to be their game of the year. Final Fantasy 16, Star Wars. Interesting. Man, a lot of games, a lot of big games this year. It's going to be interesting watching the Game Awards. Well, guys, we are approaching the 4-hour mark, and I think this may be it. I think this is where this stream comes to an end. I think I've exhausted all. I mean, I didn't come into the stream with many topics, as you can tell, but I think we had some good conversations. I think I will admit, I talked about Xbox more than I wanted to, man, and that's a little bit regrettable, just because to me, it just doesn't feel cool at this point. It doesn't feel cool as somebody who's made it clear that I'm not planning on playing on Xbox to, it's okay to talk about from time to time, but try to avoid doing that. Just because, I don't know, man. It's like when Xbox players who have no interest in PlayStation talk about it. It's like, why? So I get it. But we did talk a lot about PlayStation as well and other things. So I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Xbox on a PlayStation channel, how dare you? You're saying plates, MBG, before you go. Oh, yeah. So again, anybody who's a channel member. So we got 25 new channel members today, which is still pretty good, I think. I think that's good. Anybody who's a new channel member, keep in mind that you now have access to my members exclusive content. And yesterday I put out an unboxing of the PS5 Spider-Man 2 limited edition covers. And if you eventually do become a member, you can look forward to that. I have the plates in the background there. I kind of have them on display. Maybe they're a little bit hard to see in the light with the way the lighting is. But yeah, go check that out. And yeah, before I go, I want to do my outro here. I want to give everybody a big shout out to everybody who gifted memberships today or became a channel member. Thank you guys. Thank you for your continued support. Without that type of direct support, like I said, I simply wouldn't be able to do this content. And a big shout out to everybody who donated a super chat today. Thank you guys so much for not only, again, the hell was that? Supporting me directly, but keeping the conversation going in interesting and different directions. So yeah, guys. I do want to say this as well. So I'm gonna stick to my normal streaming schedule, or at least I'm going to try my best to. If it's true that Sony is going to be doing some kind of show this upcoming week, whether it's a state of play or something else, I mean, I think a lot of people are expecting it to happen on a Thursday. So we could end up getting an extra stream this week, is what I'm saying. If they're doing it on a Wednesday or a Friday, I will be doing an extra stream. If they do their state of play or whatever on a normal stream day, worst case scenario, I have to push back the stream a little bit. So for example, if it's tune in at 5 p.m. Eastern time for our state of play, on Thursday, I'm not going to start my stream at 12 like normal. I'll probably start it a couple hours later so we can just kind of go right into it. All right. But yeah, one last request before you guys head out. Please hit that like button for me. We're at over 465 likes, which is incredible. Thank you guys for all of the support. If you're hyped for Sony getting ready to talk this week, show your excitement by hitting that like button. I'd really appreciate that. And yeah, and last but not least, want to give a big shout out to Devil Shooter for constantly doing the timestamps. He does the timestamps for every stream. He does a phenomenal job. And if you see him in the comment section, give him a big thank you. Show him some love there. So, all right, guys, that does it. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Sunday, and I will catch you guys next time. Till then, take care, everyone.